Chapter 1526. Suyu stared at the undead demon emperor, slightly surprised. Suddenly, the undying demon emperor let out a strange, old chuckle. His voice contained the rhythm of the great Tao, which was somewhat similar to demon sword Wuya's. Another expert with unknown strength? After so many years have passed, you have also grown into a sovereign of heaven and earth. If the demon sword sovereign knew of this from the underworld, he would definitely be smiling in the underworld. Unlike me, who still has no descendant left in this world. The aged voice sighed. Demon Sword Wuya said indifferently, Senior Emperor of Tianyun, do you really think that I don't know that you've accepted a natural emperor as your disciple? If I remember correctly, his name is Zhang Wushuang, right? Emperor of Tianyun? Everyone present was shocked. In the past, there were 9 emperors of heaven and earth. The World Annihilation Emperor, the Heaven-Defying Emperor, the Eternal Darkness Emperor, the Taiching Emperor, the Kailan Emperor, the Demon Sword Emperor, the Heaven-Battling Emperor, and the Ice and Fire Emperor. Apart from the Qilan Sovereign, the first 8 all had descendants in this world. Only the 9th Emperor, the Emperor of Tianyun, the most mysterious emperor, did not leave anything behind. Amongst the 9 emperors, he is ranked 5th, and his powers are only considered average. However, he is the most mysterious emperor. Even the other 8 martial emperors have never seen his face, let alone understand him. It was said that he was most skilled in seizing the karmic luck of the world. During the era of the 8 sovereigns, he was just an ordinary little cultivator. However, by seizing the karmic luck of heaven and earth, he unceasingly obtained fortune that ordinary people could not imagine. Step by step, he climbed to the peak of cultivation and became a sovereign that stood above the common people. He had the same name as the 8 sovereigns. Its mysteriousness was unfathomable. Even now, Demon Sword Wuya was more wary and vigilant towards this former emperor than he was grateful. What shocked them even more was that the disciple that the Emperor of Tianyun had accepted was none other than Zhang Wushuang. He recalled the 10,000-foot-tall Divine Emperor's Dharma idol behind Zhang Wushuang. It was clearly a divine warrior of heaven and earth, just like Suyu. Unexpectedly, it was the Emperor of Tianyun. It was no wonder that Zhang Wushuang's luck was heaven-defying and he was born to be the Arch. With the existence of the Celestial Fate Emperor's Celestial Dharch Dharma idol, he could intercept the providence and obtain creation at any time. The Emperor's 4-piece set was most likely a part of the Emperor's fate. The Tianyun Emperor chuckled. Nothing in the astral river divine realm can escape your eyes. That's right. I have indeed passed my mantle to Zhang Wushuang. My Tianyun lineage cannot end just like this. Perhaps it was because seizing the destiny of heaven and earth was too domineering, interfering with the order of the great Tao. As an emperor, he didn't have any children in his life. Even though he had many wives and concubines, it was still difficult for him to bear a child. As such, the heavenly fate lineage was exceptionally weak. Demon Sword Wuya said indifferently, Senior Emperor of Fate, you must have spent a lot of effort to enter this place, right? The Emperor of Tianyun chuckled. His smile was a little weathered. It's not just thoughts. It's not an exaggeration to say that I've put in a lot of effort. I'm just a wisp of the divine will of the Emperor of Destiny, not the main body. If I want to build a time gate and reach the end of this divine territory, the only way is to collect the heavenly book's characters from all over the place. For this, I didn't hesitate to build the Netherworld Gate and obtain the characters through various transactions. Unfortunately, the results are weak. This half of the divine territory has been destroyed too thoroughly, and there are almost no remnants of civilization. Fortunately, the heavens do not disappoint those who persevere. Not only did Suyu find the time gate, but he also comprehended the heavenly book's characters on the time gate. Coupled with the aggressive Azura creature, we were able to enter this place together. Demon Sword Wuya gently tapped his finger on the chessboard and said, So, Senior Emperor of Fate, you didn't come here just to catch up with me, a junior from back then, did you? Although I would like to, for someone like me who doesn't have much time left, time is the most precious. The surface of the Emperor of Fate's body flickered with fluorescence, and an extremely faint phantom appeared. It was transparent all over, as if it would dissipate from the world at any time. After hundreds of millions of years, this wisp of divine is finally going to perish. I have to finish what I have yet to do. The phantom swayed, as if it would vanish at any time. Demon Sword Wuya stared at him indifferently. What is it that requires you to come here? The Emperor of Fate pointed his finger far away and fixed it on the gap where a steady stream of water was flowing into the river. I want to use the exit to go to the Great Beginning Realm. The Great Beginning Realm? Suyu was shocked. He had heard the name of the Great Beginning Realm from the epic-making dragon, but he didn't know where it was. He didn't expect that even the divine will of the former divine warriors of heaven and earth had to go there. Go back. The gap is not suitable for people to pass through. Otherwise, it will awaken the slumbering evil spirit. The two great god realms, as well as you and I, will not be able to escape the disaster of destruction. Demon Sword Wuya refused decisively, showing no mercy at all. Hearing that, Su Yu's heart stirred. Evil spirit? What was that? Could it be that Demon Sword Wuya was guarding this gap to prevent people from passing through? The Emperor of Fate bowed. Please, for the sake of my sacrifice for the god realm in the past, give me a chance. I will be forever grateful. The former divine warrior was reduced to begging for help. One could imagine how low his stance was. However, Demon Sword Wuya frowned and shouted, "If you remember that I sacrificed myself to protect the god realm, you should know how much risk the god realm will have to bear every time you pass through this exit. Please go back." The Emperor of Fate had a bitter look on his face as he sighed. I only have 100 years, and I must go to the Great Beginning Realm. Please make an exception. I beg of you. Sharp sword energy flickered between Demon Sword Wuya's brows as he shouted coldly. I respect you as a senior, and your deeds during your lifetime were inspiring. Don't force me to take action. However, at that moment, Yun Yazi smiled and waved his hand. What's the harm in letting him pass? But senior, the Demon Sword Divine Warrior was stunned and said, if that evil spirit is awakened, you, I, and the God Realm will all be destroyed. Huh? Yin Yazi smiled faintly. The evil spirit will awaken in no more than 3 years or 10 years. Letting him go will only speed up the evil spirit's awakening. The catastrophe that the God Realm is facing can't wait for 3 years. If nothing goes wrong, it will definitely break out in 2 years. 2 years. If Suyu remembered correctly, 2 years later would be the day that the Sinful Lady and the World Annihilation Dragon broke through the seal. With their invincible strength, the God Realm was indeed facing an unprecedented catastrophe. But Demon Sword Wuya hesitated. Yin Yazi said, let him go. Demon Sword Wuya was helpless. He stared at the divine warrior of Tianyun and said, you are lucky. The senior will plead for you because of your past. Go quickly. The divine warrior of Tianyun was overjoyed. He cupped his fists and bowed to Yun Yazi. Thank you, my friend. May I ask who you are? Humph. Even if you were at your peak, you wouldn't be qualified to call him a friend. Now that you're only left with divine thoughts, I advise you to be more cautious. Demon Sword Wuya snorted lightly. Oh, the divine warrior of Tianyun was surprised. He stared at Yun Yazi again. After a long while, his eyes gradually filled with shock and awe. He hurriedly bowed. I have eyes but failed to recognize Senior Yun Yazi. Please punish me. Yun Yazi smiled faintly. Get up. You don't have much time left. If you want to lay the foundation for your successor, go ahead. The divine warrior of Tianyun was moved to tears. I can't thank you enough. If I am reborn, I will do anything to repay you. You don't have to do anything. If you really want to, how about you also intercept a part of the destiny of the world for my disciple? Yun Yazi said. The divine warrior of Tianyun looked at Suyu and smiled bitterly. Senior, don't joke. It is already a great fortune for him to be your disciple. How can the destiny that I intercept be compared to that? I have seen your disciple long ago. His destiny is so strong that I can't fathom it at all. How can I be qualified to intercept it for him? Yin Yazi smiled meaningfully. His destiny is strong not because of me, but because of someone else. He didn't want to say more. How about this? Give my disciple a share of the destiny of the Emperor four-piece set that you intercepted for Zhan Wushuang. This, the divine warrior of Tianyun's heart skipped a beat, and a complicated look appeared on his face. Yin Yazi said, "If you find it difficult, then forget it." The divine warrior of Tianyun hurriedly said, "Senior, you have misunderstood me. Even if you hadn't done me a favor, I would still be willing to serve you. However, it's not that I don't want to, it's just that I can't." Without waiting for Yin Yazi to ask, he said, "I did intercept Zhan Wushuang's destiny, but only the destiny of the Emperor four-piece set was not mine. Moreover, I can't intercept the destiny of such a divine object." Yin Yazi said, "So, that's the destiny that he was born with?" The divine warrior of Tianyun nodded. "You can say that the Emperor four-piece set belongs to Zhan Wushuang. This is preordained by the heavens, and it's useless no matter who tries to compete for it." He looked at Yin Yazi, then at Suyu, and sighed. "I just don't want to keep my disciple busy." Everyone clicked their tongues in wonder. Inborn destiny must have been bestowed by the heavens. The heavens would have helped Zhan Wushuang obtain the Emperor four-piece set. No matter how hard the outsiders tried to compete, it would all be in vain. Yin Yazi looked at Suyu with a questioning look, meaning that he should decide for himself. Preordained by the heavens? Suyu's eyes were filled with reluctance. He said, "Then I asked the divine warrior of Tianyun to intercept a portion of destiny for me, or at least point me in the right direction." The divine warrior of Tianyun stared at Suyu for a long time and sighed softly. "This is indeed a decision that suits your character. Fine, since you are confident that you can compete with the will of the heavens, I'll let you have a try." When he finished speaking, the divine warrior of Tianyun waved his palms toward the heavens and the earth, and an obscure chain of rules was intercepted in his palms. The divine warrior of Tianyun inserted it between Suyu's eyebrows, and Suyu felt something heavy on his body. At the same time, there was a vague, invisible guidance in the depths of his heart, pointing him in the right direction. If the direction was right, it should be towards the Emperor four-piece set. Was this the intercepted destiny? The subtlety of it was unimaginable. If you meet that disciple, I hope you won't make things difficult for him. The divine warrior of Tianyun was worried. Zhan Wushuang was outstanding, but he couldn't see through Suyu at all. "For the sake of the destiny that you have bestowed upon him, I will help him if he is in trouble." The divine warrior of Tianyun nodded. As if remembering something, he said, "By the way, I happened to meet your friend named Luo Shui and saved him. He is now settled in the Divine Realm Empire." Suyu was delighted. No wonder there was no trace of Luo Shui in the demonic dimension. It turned out that he was rescued by the undead demon emperor. Chapter 1527. "Thank you, Elder." Suyu cupped his fists in gratitude. The divine warrior of Tianyun smiled, bowed to Yin Yazi and demonic sword Wuya respectively, and stepped into the gap, disappearing without a trace. Looking at the back of the divine warrior of Tianyun, or rather, the undead demon emperor, Suyu understood. Among the demon emperors of the demon dimension, only the undead demon emperor saw through the truth of the giant of the bitter sea and fled the demon dimension. Now it seemed that there was a reason for that. The undead demon emperor must have been possessed at that time. After he left, everyone's eyes refocused on Yin Yazi and demonic sword Wuya. Demonic sword Wuya smiled kindly. "Elder, you and Suyu haven't seen each other for many years. I'm sure you have a lot to talk about. We won't disturb you." With a wave of his sleeve, he disappeared with the crowd, leaving only the master and disciple. "Haha, come and sit down." Yin Yazi beckoned. Suyu walked over and sat on the other side of the chessboard. "Master, have you been here for the past 10 years?" Yin Yazi nodded with a smile. "Most of the time. If you have any questions, ask away." Suyu couldn't hold back the many questions in his heart. He asked curiously, "Where's this place? Why is it deep in the flow of time and space?" "Ha! This is the end of the God realm, where the ancient god Jiulong used to live? Yun Yazi said leisurely. The ancient god Jiulong's residence? Su Yu was surprised, but after a moment of contemplation, he said, the gate of time must have been left by the ancient god Jiulong. Yun Yazi praised. You are really different from before. Your wisdom is amazing. Yes, the gate of time was left here by the ancient god Jiulong. So you could guess that because he knew that the ancient god Jiulong must have mastered the law of time and space. Apart from the ancient god Jiulong, it was hard to think of anyone else who could refine the gate of time and space. Master, who was the sinful woman I saw in the flow of time and space? She could see through time and space and detain me from the flow of time and space. Su Yu's heart still palpitated as he recalled that scene. If it wasn't for demonic sword Wuya cutting off the flow of time and space and ending the journey, Su Yu would have been pulled ashore and suffered the destructive pressure of billions of years. Yun Yazi said, that bastard is from the absolute beginning dimension, and she's one of the 3 strongest Dao Lords in the Dao Lord Hall. She's extremely strong, and you drew her attention because you forcefully saw through her true appearance while you were traversing the flow of space. Any Dao Lord has the ability to penetrate the heavens and the earth. Not even the laws of the great Dao can restrain them, and neither can the laws of space and time. It's not strange that she could sense your existence in the space and time of billions of years ago. Your previous actions can be said to be extremely dangerous. Fortunately, you arrived near the end of the divine territory and were detected by the demon Sword Boundless, who promptly severed the space-time flow. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Su Yu shivered. I was careless. Yun Yazi said, I don't blame you. I didn't fulfill my duty to warn you. After thinking for a while, Su Yu's eyes flickered and he asked, Master, may I ask where the great beginning realm is? Yun Yazi was silent for a long time before he slowly said, Do you know what the 2 words Tai Chu mean? Su Yu shook his head slightly. I don't. Yun Yazi said, in the primordial times, the world was a mass of chaos and eternal darkness. There was no sunlight, no sky, no earth, no mountains, no rivers, and no living creatures. That was until a gas was born in the chaos. This gas fell as dust and rose as clouds. The dust gave birth to living creatures, and the clouds descended with blessings. The living creatures evolved into various forms, and the blessings evolved into the world, mountains, and rivers. After countless years of reproduction, until everything you see today, it can be said that the first gas in the world gave birth to everything that exists today. It has a name, the Great Beginning Gas. Su Yu was shocked. Master, do you mean that the Great Beginning Realm is the birthplace of everything? Yun Yazi nodded. That's right. Even the God Realm originated from the Great Beginning Realm. Compared to the Great Beginning Realm, the God Realm is like a speck of dust, a lowly existence derived from the Great Beginning Realm. Su Yu's heart trembled violently. How vast was the Great Beginning Realm? Such a vast God Realm was actually one of the specks of dust derived from it. However, this God Realm is also a special existence because its owner, the ancient god Jiulong, was a powerful pathmaster who stood at the pinnacle of the Great Beginning Realm. Hence, the name of the ancient god realm of Jiulong resounded throughout the Great Beginning Realm. Hearing this, Su Yu was extremely curious about the ancient god Jiulong. What kind of peerless character was he? Then, on the other side of this gap is the Great Beginning Realm. Su Yu's heart surged with uncontrollable waves. Yun Yazi asked meaningfully, Do you want to enter it? Su Yu wanted to nod, but he refused calmly. No, I still have unfinished business. Haha, is it lost in the God Realm? Yun Yazi asked with a smile. Receiving Su Yu's nod, Yun Yazi smiled with relief. If nothing goes wrong, it's a wise choice. Entering the Great Beginning Realm now will do you more harm than good. Su Yu's eyes flashed. What do you mean? Yun Yazi smiled. The successor of the ancient god Jiulong has appeared in the Great Beginning Realm. Do I need to tell you what will happen to him? Su Yu was taken aback, but it quickly turned into a bitter smile. I'm afraid Master already knew that I had the divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. If others could see it, There was no reason that Yun Yazi, who had been by Su Yu's side for a long time, did not know. At that time, if Yun Yazi wanted to snatch the divine nine-dragon cauldron, it would have been a piece of cake. However, he did not do so. He even pretended not to know and never delved into Su Yu's secrets. Deep gratitude and respect surged in his heart. Su Yu bowed. Do you have any more questions? Yun Yazi asked. If not, I do have one that I'm very interested in. Master, please go ahead, Su Yu said. Yun Yazi stared at Su Yu and asked curiously, how did you know that the successor of the demon sword divine warrior was behind this gate of time? So it was because of this, Su Yu said casually. Back then, I encountered a woman from the dream named Hong Chun. She followed me to the Star River God realm, but she was scared away by a powerful being. At that time, I thought that there must be a powerful being hidden in the Star River. Later, I learned that the successor of the Devil's Word Emperor had given up on assimilating the Azura and went missing. At that point, I came to the conclusion that the powerful entity Mistress Red Dust saw was most likely the successor of the Devil's Word Emperor. And when I saw the Gate of Time, I guessed that the Gate of Time must lead to some unknown place where the successor of the Demon Sword Divine Warrior resides. As he spoke, Su Yu smiled bitterly. What I didn't expect was that Master would be here. Yun Yazi listened attentively, his eyes overflowing with approval. After a long time, he sighed. I see. Your prediction is so accurate that even I am surprised, but you might be wrong about one thing. Oh? What is it? Su Yu asked in surprise. Yun Yazi's expression gradually became solemn, and he said slowly, the woman from the red dust path could not see us behind the Gate of Time. She was not scared away by demon Sword Wuya and me. What? Su Yu's pupil shrank. Then who did she see? Is there an unknown, powerful being in the Star River God realm? Upon hearing that, Yun Yazi looked at Su Yu with a complicated look in his eyes. He said, you know that person too, or you're very familiar with her. Who is she? Su Yu asked in surprise. Yun Yazi did not speak, but took out a portrait that Su Yu was very familiar with. With a flip of his palm, an ancient painting scroll appeared in Su Yu's hand. The painting scroll was unrolled, and a beautiful woman as beautiful as a fairy, who did not seem to be a creature of the mortal world, appeared in the painting like a living person. Her eyebrows were picturesque, and her expression was indifferent. She exuded a beautiful face that made the world pale in comparison. It was a beauty that surpassed everything, a beauty that no creature could resist. Even Yun Yazi was lost for a moment, and his eyes were filled with deep infatuation. Their paintings were exactly the same. Su Yu's painting scroll came from the Jojo Cavern world. It was a mysterious painting scroll that would make people immersed in it, unable to extricate themselves. The person in the painting scroll was none other than Xia Jingyu. Master, where did you get this painting scroll? Su Yu was very surprised. Yun Yazi said leisurely, half a year ago from outside the gap, I drifted here along the water of the Star River. Half a year ago, it was when he returned to the Star River God realm from the Tianhu, and it was also when Mistress Red Dust followed Su Yu and the others to the Star River God realm. What she saw should be this painting, not me and Demon Sword Wuya, Yun Yazi said lightly. Su Yu stared at the two identical paintings, both of which were portraits of Xia Jingyu, a picture of a mature Xia Jingyu. It looked like her, but not like her. Master, Mistress Red Dust called the person in this painting Senior. Su Yu's heart trembled, and he clenched the painting tightly. His tone was solemn. Master, do you know who the woman in the painting is, and how she is related to the woman your disciple has been searching for? Yun Yazi looked at Su Yu, and a rare look of pity appeared on his face. He said, Su Yu, I've never asked you to give up anything, and I've always encouraged you to go against the natural order. But this woman, if possible, I hope you can forget about her. Why? Su Yu's heart sank. No matter how desperate the situation was, Yun Yazi would never ask Su Yu to give up. Only this matter. Yun Yazi sighed. The reason is very simple. There will be no result between you. Su Yu was silent for a long time, then gently shook his head, his eyes full of determination. I have walked from Shanhui Island to the Jinlong continent, and then to Juzhou, all the way to the God Realm today. She is an obsession that I have never forgotten, the source of my perseverance to this day. If I give up on her, it is equivalent to denying all my past efforts. I can't forget, and I refuse to forget. Yin Yazi heaved a deep sigh. Your answer is as expected, but reality is cruel. You will soon understand the meaning behind my words. Su Yu said, Master, may I ask if Xia Jingyu has been here before? Bai Wanqing's prying eyes had detected the thread of fate between him and Xia Jingyu, running through the stone door. Unsurprisingly, she had been here before. She has been here, Yin Yazi said. Su Yu's eyes flashed, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. Where? Yin Yazi was silent for a long time, then pointed to the thatched hut and sighed softly. She has been waiting for you for a long time. Go see her, take one last look at her. A basin of cold water doused Su Yu's excitement. Chapter 1528. Back then, Xia Jingyu transmitted a message to Su Yu with 7 notes from the other end of the thread of fate. Brother Su, I'm waiting for you. It was because of this sentence that Su Yu had isolated himself to study the heavenly book for 5 years, overcoming all difficulties to trace back to the Star River God Realm, just to find her. However, he could only meet her once. What happened to her? Su Yu stopped in front of the hut, losing the courage to enter. Yin Yazi said, You'll know when you go in. After hesitating for a while, Su Yu plucked up his courage and stepped into the hut. What he saw was not the remains of Xia Jingyu, nor the scene of her dying breath, as he had imagined. Instead, she was leaning against the window, enjoying the scenery outside quietly and peacefully. An unknown yellow bird landed gently on the back of her hand, singing cheerfully. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, the mist shrouded the beautiful side of her face. It was indescribably beautiful, surpassing all beauty. Even the birds sang to please her. As if she had sensed something, the woman turned her head. Her snow-white eyes seemed to have traversed 12 years of time and space. At that moment, Su Yu's heart stopped beating, and even his thoughts were frozen. Those familiar eyes, which had once seen the prosperity of the Jinlong continent for him, evoked endless memories in Su Yu. It was as if he had returned to the beginning, when he was still a teenager, when he was still a nobody, and when he first met Xia Jingyu. The woman was stunned for a long time, and her pupils gradually dilated. It was as if an entire iceberg had melted in her snow-white eyes, turning into endless tears that rolled down her cheeks. Brother Su, Xia Jingyu murmured with tears in her eyes. Her beautiful face was like a crying flower, making one's heart ache for her. The two of them had a tacit understanding, and they hugged each other. The long-awaited hug made Su Yu feel both excited and inexplicable peace. He even forgot about what would happen after his death, and only wanted to quietly enjoy this moment. Brother Su, you're finally here. I have no more regrets in my heart, Xia Jingyu said softly as she wrapped her arms around Su Yu's neck and held him in her arms. Su Yu closed his eyes and said, From now on, there will be no more regrets between us. When I finish dealing with the lost God realm, we will be together forever. Xia Jingyu, who was in his embrace, trembled slightly. Although her movement was weak, so you could clearly see it. Big Brother Su, I don't think I'll be able to accompany you to the end, Xia Jingyu said. She sounded like she was about to cry. Su Yu suddenly opened his eyes and hugged her even tighter. He suppressed his uneasiness and asked, Why? Xia Jingyu raised her eyes and looked at Su Yu calmly. She only looked at him, but didn't reply. At this moment, Su Yu suddenly discovered that Xia Jingyu's pupils had lost their luster, as if they were black pearls that had lost their vitality. She was blind. She could not see Su Yu at all. Your eyes. Su Yu was anxious, and he cupped her face. However, this inadvertent movement made Su Yu realize that her face and body were extremely cold. What made Su Yu's body stiffen even more was that he couldn't feel her heartbeat, even though they were embracing each other. Jingyu, your body? Su Yu's throat was choked, and his heart was trembling. He couldn't believe what he had just witnessed. Xia Jingyu held back her tears, but her tears were like a kite with a broken string. She could not stop them, and they flowed down her cheeks to the ground, forming a sea. The seawater gradually submerged her, from her ankles to her calves, then to her knees. Suyu held her hand, but she was slowly being swallowed by the seawater. Jingyu, Suyu shouted as he came back to his senses. He tried to pull her up, but the seawater had a great power, and no matter what Suyu did, he couldn't stop her from being swallowed. Xia Jingyu tried her best to smile. Brother Su, don't think about me anymore. Just treat me as a passerby in your life. With me around, you won't be lonely. The seawater submerged her body, leaving only her face exposed. Suyu's eyes were filled with tears. Why? We met again after 10 years, yet you want me to forget about you? Xia Jingyu gave Suyu one last smile. It's because I don't belong to this world. I only belong to you. Goodbye, Brother Su. I love you. A wave of seawater came and submerged Xia Jingyu. No, Suyu shouted loudly. He wanted to pull her up, but there was nothing in his hands. It was as if a kite that had been tightly held in his hands had been broken, and his palm was empty. He pulled back his palm, and a strand of hair was wrapped around his index finger. It was Xia Jingyu's hair. The seawater under his feet gradually calmed down, and the ground became flat again. Everything in the house was the same as before. There were no traces of seawater erosion. It was as if what had just happened was a dream. Master, was everything just an illusion? Suyu didn't turn around, his voice low. Yin Yazi was standing outside the door. He looked at Suyu's lonely back with a sorrowful expression. No, Suyu was shocked. Then Yin Yazi walked over and patted her shoulder lightly. He looked at the strand of hair wrapped around Suyu's index finger and said, this is the last thing she has left in this world. Her body, her soul, and her life have all disappeared. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Suyu felt as if thousands of lightning bolts were rolling through his mind. She only had a strand of hair left? She had already perished? The woman who had comprehended the divine decree with him under the moonlight. The woman who had seen the world for him, who had sacrificed herself for him. The woman whom he had pursued so passionately had died. Time seemed to be silent, and the world seemed to be silent. Only Suyu was left walking alone. He even forgot to breathe. He just stood there blankly, as if he had lost his soul, like a wooden stake. After a long time, as if countless years had passed, Suyu asked in a daze, how did she die? Yin Yazi's eyes were filled with admiration as well as regret. In the being list, there's a race that's in the top 3, the goddess race. They're naturally intelligent, and their comprehension ability is superb. No one can compare to them. Among all the races, they've grasped the most great path laws. Many people only know this, but they don't know that the goddess race has another name that very few people know. That is the Calamity Immortals tribe. They are born to control disasters. Through ancient sacrifices, they can launch disasters against specific living creatures. They are formless and extremely destructive. They are one of the most terrifying creatures in the great beginning realm. Similarly, they can also turn disasters into disasters, but it is 10,000 times more difficult than descending disasters. Because to turn disasters into disasters, they need to sacrifice the most precious part of themselves. Hearing this, Suyu's eyes regained a bit of focus. Turning disasters into disasters. He had faced many disasters in his life. Several of them were man-made, but they were all miraculously resolved. You have gone through 4 disasters. The first is the Jinlong disaster. The second is the Jiuzhou disaster. The third is the Demon World disaster. The last one is the Tao Tai disaster not long ago. Yin Yazi said, she resolved the 4 disasters for you, and each of them sacrificed one of their most precious things. Suyu's eyes flashed. The Jinlong disaster was the destruction of the world by the Blood Emperor. Suyu used a fairy elixir to reverse the flow of time and space. That fairy elixir came from Xia Jingyu. The Jiuzhou disaster was the divine disaster. Suyu was destroyed by the endless black thunder feathers. There was a mysterious force that prevented the divine disaster from ending prematurely. The Demon World disaster, the pursuit of the giant of the bitter sea, the escape in the tunnel. At the last moment, A Buddha bone that should not have appeared in a place that should not have appeared. The Tao Tai disaster. Suyu should have been unprepared and killed by the powerful and unpredictable Tao Tai. In the end, he obtained a bracelet and resolved the disaster. Now that he thought about it, those seemingly coincidences were not coincidences. Especially when the divine disaster arrived. He could even hear the sound of quarrels. To resolve your first disaster, she sacrificed her eyes. For the second disaster, she sacrificed her heart. For the third disaster, she sacrificed all her memories. For the fourth disaster, she sacrificed her body. Therefore, she lost her light, heartbeat, body temperature, and finally her body. All that was left of her was a strand of black hair. Suyu's internal energy was tumbling in sorrow and self-blame silently. He should have known that. Why did she leave the Jinlong city alone? She just didn't want Suyu to see her lose her light so that he wouldn't feel guilty. After that, she sacrificed herself again and again to resolve the disasters for Suyu, which were getting more and more dangerous. Then she died. However, he didn't know it at all. Holding the strand of black hair tightly, Suyu thought of something. Then, a small emerald dragon appeared in his left palm and surrounded the strand of black hair. Many faint shadows of the law of time and space appeared in the surroundings. However, the strand of black hair didn't move at all. It was useless to bring the dead back to life, so he was not willing to give up. So, he used the law of time, space, and soul to cover the strand of black hair. Then, he tried to make it go back to the time before Xia Jingyu sacrificed herself. However, nothing happened to the strand of black hair. Yun Yazi sighed. She was entangled by the law of fate because she sacrificed herself many times. Now, you haven't mastered the law of fate in the divine nine-dragon cauldron, so you can't bring her back to life. Suyu's eyes lit up with shrewd light. The law of fate. Can I bring her back to life if I master it? Yun Yazi nodded his head. If you can break the shackles of the law of fate, you should be able to bring her back to life. So you didn't know why Yun Yazi knew about the divine nine-dragon cauldron. So he asked anxiously, then, what kind of divine blood do I need to water the dragon of fate? Even the blood of the ancient god, Jiolong, couldn't water the dragon of fate. Yun Yazi said, a path master. Path master? Hearing that, Suyu didn't feel desperate at all. Instead, he laughed crazily. Path master good. There's always a way out. Suyu was not afraid that the road was difficult, but he was afraid that there was no way out. Now, Suyu was quite relaxed when he found a way to save Xia Jingyu. Then he regained his focus and looked resolute. Speaking of path masters, isn't there one left in the god realm? Suyu smiled. His smile was chilling. Even Yun Yazi's heart skipped a beat for no reason. He felt a little uneasy. You want to attack the sinful lady? Yun Yazi asked in surprise. He must have seen how powerful the sinful lady was in the space-time reversal. Suyu's eyes were cold. Yes, I don't care who she is. Since her blood can save Xia Jingyu, even if she is the law of the great path, I will kill her. Moreover, the sinful lady and the demonic dragon had no intention of letting Suyu go. Sooner or later, there would be a fight to the death between them. Yun Yazi looked deeply at Suyu with a complicated look in his eyes. He sighed. The sinful lady. I'm afraid you won't be able to kill her when the time comes, because she is... Boom! All of a sudden, the thatched cottage shook violently, and the cliff they were on shook violently. The water level of the Star River that had been flowing for billions of years suddenly dropped. Chapter 1529. Yun Yazi flashed to the outside of the hut, staring at the continuously falling water level. He did not look surprised. On the contrary, demonic sword Weia looked extremely solemn as he said, Indeed, the departure of the divine warrior of Tianyun has alarmed the evil spirit. If an ordinary creature had left through the gap, it would not have been affected, but the evil spirit could easily sense the divine consciousness of the divine warrior of Tianyun. As they spoke, the river that had been flowing endlessly through the gap for billions of years gradually stopped flowing. The river dried up, revealing the riverbed. Many unknown wreckage, divine weapons, and countless tomb guard spirits remained in it. Yin Yazi said, as expected, "Don't worry too much. The evil spirit will need at least 2 more years to awaken. 2 years is enough to determine the fate of the God realm." His gaze penetrated the gate of time and looked at the distant lost God realm. Swish! Suyu appeared as well, staring at the dark gap. "Master, the 2 years you mentioned, are you referring to the sinful woman?" Yin Yazi looked at him and said, "Yes." After taking a light breath, Suyu remained calm and composed. His gaze became deeper and more resolute. Yin Yazi said, "You have a bright future ahead of you. Are you really going to die for a woman?" Suyu didn't allow anyone to interfere. "Master, if a woman can die for me, why can't I extinguish the fire for her? Isn't the most difficult and the most precious thing in one's life to have someone who is worth you risking your life for?" Yin Yazi was silent. After a while, he smiled. "You are indeed my disciple. All right, I will help you." Demonic Sword Wuya's expression changed slightly. He was about to say something, but was secretly stopped by Yin Yazi. Suyu was slightly stunned. "Master, you are willing to help me?" When he first became Suyu's disciple, Yin Yazi had clearly emphasized that Suyu had to solve any difficulties on his own and that he would never intervene. But now, why was he taking the initiative to help? Yin Yazi chuckled. There was a hint of relief in his smile. "Because I have some grievances with her that need to be settled." There were grievances between the sinful woman and Yin Yazi? That was unheard of. "Thank you, Master." Suyu was grateful. Yin Yazi said, "Prepare yourself well. At the crucial moment, I will take action and retrieve her divine blood for you." At this moment, Demon Sword Boundless said, "When the time comes, I will also make a move and lend you a hand." Hearing this, Suyu was overjoyed. It could already be confirmed that the Demon Sword Boundless had reached the status of the former Demon Sword Sovereign. With a sovereign acting, it was enough to sweep away any existence in the Lost God realm. However, Demon Sword Boundless continued, "I can only act once. Therefore, unless it is absolutely necessary, I will definitely not appear." Oh, why was that? As a monarch of heaven and earth, logically speaking, there is already no existence in the divine realm that could threaten him. All of a sudden, Suyu surveyed the independent world around him. At the end of the divine realm, he pondered for a moment and said, "Brother Wuya, could it be that you—" Demonic Sword Boundless nodded expressionlessly. "Yes, I have been in the flow of space-time for too long. The power of space-time that I bear is unimaginably vast. If I leave the flow of space-time, that power of space-time will definitely destroy me." What? Everyone was shocked when they heard this, especially the first prince. He had yet to recover from the surprise of meeting his ancestor when he immediately received this grievous news. Haha, there is no need to feel sorry. I am not the first person to guard this place. If my ancestor could do so, why can't I, Demon Sword Boundless, do the same? Demonic Sword Boundless said indifferently, as if he had already seen through life and death. Suyu's eyes flickered slightly, and he hesitated. "May I ask if the person before you was the Qilin Divine Warrior?" Demonic Sword Boundless laughed. "Sure enough, I can't hide it from you. That's right. Back then, I received the summons of the Qilin Divine Warrior. That's why I came here to replace him and guard this place. He had indeed escaped the sinful lady's pursuit. Then he is now..." Suyu's eyes darkened. Since Demonic Sword Boundless had come to replace him, it meant that he could not withstand the pressure of the power of time, and had already Demonic Sword Boundless eyes flashed. "Don't worry. He is the only surviving divine warrior among the 9 emperors. He won't die so easily." "Not dead?" Suyu was shocked again. "Then where is he?" "I don't know. When I came here, the Qilin Divine Warrior had disappeared without a trace," Demonic Sword Boundless said. "But he did not escape. I think he must be planning something." As he spoke, Demonic Sword Boundless stared at Suyu meaningfully, as if he was hinting at something. Suyu's heart skipped a beat. Was the Qilin Divine Warrior related to him? Thinking about it carefully, Suyu shook his head and denied this possibility. If you want to obtain the sinful lady's blood, you can only get close to him. Before that, How you approach him is entirely up to you. Your master and I are powerless, demonic sword boundless said. Su Yu's eyes shone with determination. I will do my best. Right at that moment, the all-access merchant god and the Shang deity stepped forward cautiously, bowed, and said, Senior, may I ask if our children have been here before? Demonic sword boundless said, Is it Shang Yuanxin and Yang Tai? They entered this door by mistake, but they could not withstand the power of time and space from the outside world and could not return. The two of them looked around. Then, demonic sword boundless pointed to the gap. They can only enter the great beginning realm. Fortunately, the two of them are not strong. Even if they pass through the gap, they will not attract the attention of the evil spirit. Otherwise, it would be difficult for me to deal with them. What? The two of them were shocked. They entered the great beginning realm? Don't worry. The great beginning realm has more advantages than disadvantages for people with low strength like them, demonic sword boundless said. The all-access merchant god and the Shang deity looked at each other and retreated with worried faces. So he was also surprised. He did not expect that the two of them would enter there by mistake. The vast great beginning realm was not a blessing or a curse for them. Everyone rested for a moment and recovered. After counting the number of casualties, Su Yu breathed a sigh of relief. The giant of the bitter sea had used the power of devouring and caused great damage. Fortunately, there were more injuries and fewer deaths. Only about tens of thousands of ordinary creatures died because of carelessness. The rest were injuries that could be repaired. After experiencing this catastrophe, the Star River God realm was a daunting experience, but not a dangerous one. Pass the order, return to the Star River. So you said after a few hours. The longer they stayed in the flow of time and space, the more terrifying the power of time they had to bear when they returned to the outside world. It was not advisable to stay here for long. Everyone entered the world annihilation plate, and Su Yu alone brought them to the entrance. Su Yu turned around and bowed to demonic sword boundless and Yun Yazi. On the day of the sinful woman's death, please help me. When he finished speaking, he leaped into the gate of time. Suddenly, Su Yu appeared on a small boat again, floating down the river. Behind him, there was a stone door hidden in the flow of time and space. The scene of time around him appeared again, but Su Yu had no time to look at it. He looked down at the green hair wrapped around his index finger, his chest heavy. As Su Yu was lost in thought, suddenly his eyelids twitched without warning. A warning sign suddenly rose in Su Yu's heart. Raising his head, Su Yu looked around and thought to himself, could it be that the sinful woman has attacked again? But when he looked up, it was a giant palm that crossed time and space and destroyed the long river with one palm, squeezing the endless power of time and space to destroy Su Yu. Su Yu was shocked. At this moment, he couldn't move at all in the flow of time and space. How could he resist the sudden annihilation palm? Who had crossed time and space to kill him? All of a sudden, the green hair on Su Yu's index finger moved slightly, as if trying to resist. Even if her body and soul were destroyed, the things she had left behind were all to protect Su Yu. It's you. Su Yu's eyes were filled with monstrous, murderous intent. The four great ordeals were done by Xia Jingyu at the cost of her own life. But they didn't stop there. They tried to destroy Su Yu completely in the flow of time and space. Despicable people. Get lost. In the time and space behind Su Yu, a magnificent sword light cut through the flow and split the giant palm in half. A miserable howl of pain came from the darkness. The giant palm was broken and retracted abruptly. But because of the interference of the giant palm, the flow of time and space was turbulent. The small boat under his feet couldn't withstand the continuous waves and was on the verge of collapse. Su Yu was in the small boat and could capsize at any time. In the long flow behind him, the urgent voice of Demon Sword Wuya came. Hang in there, don't fall into the long flow of time and space, or you will never be able to go back. His voice penetrated through the long flow of time for tens of millions of years and gradually became weaker. Su Yu only heard the first half of the sentence, but he understood what would happen if he fell into the river. Splash! The water of the long river of time and space was getting more and more turbulent, and the small boat was also getting more and more bumpy, making creaking sounds. At this moment, the small boat had arrived at the time and space when they entered the time gate. The scene of Suyu opening the time gate and taking everyone into it was clearly replayed on the shore. If it went further forward, it would be the future. However, under the push of the huge waves, Suyu couldn't stop the small boat at all, and it quickly disappeared into the future area. The two sides of the river of time and space in the future were blank. Because it hadn't happened yet, there were no fragments. Suyu felt uneasy. If he went further forward in the future, it would be the time when the sinful woman was born and destroyed everything. What would be the point of showing up then? Stop! Suyu shouted, but the small boat didn't show any signs of stopping. Instead, it suddenly encountered a huge wave of time and space, which knocked the small boat over. Suyu couldn't move at all, and he watched helplessly as the small boat sank into the space-time boat. However, at this moment, on the other side of the future time and space, a small boat slowly rowed over. On the bow of the small boat, a woman in red was sitting cross-legged. She had a graceful figure and a beautiful figure. What was shocking was that the woman in red was not frozen and couldn't move. Instead, she was holding a flute in her hand and playing the music. The sound of the flute was like a fairy, full of complex emotions. Before Suyu fell into the water, he glanced at the woman. When he saw her face clearly, he couldn't help but gasp and exclaim, "Xia Jingyu!" The face of the woman in red was exactly the same as Xia Jingyu. What? Xia Jingyu, who was playing the flute, opened her beautiful eyes and stared at Suyu, who had fallen into the water, with a little surprise. Strange, in this long river of time and space, I can actually meet a living creature. This is fate. When entering the long river from different points of time and space, the river of time and space scene was completely different. Normally, there wouldn't be a situation where two boats met. Standing at the bow of the boat, Xia Jingyu looked at Suyu and said, "Who are you? Why did you call me Xia Jingyu?" Chapter 15:30. Suyu was stunned. It was not Xia Jingyu. They had the same face, different temperament, and different souls. Xia Jingyu was tranquil and beautiful like a fairy from heaven. The redwood Xia Jingyu in front of him was as cold and proud as a peony, indifferent and magnificent. Seeing that Suyu was silent, the redwood Xia Jingyu frowned slightly. She raised her hand and pulled Suyu out of the flow of time and space. Then, she said lightly, "It is fate that we met. I will save your life. Go." She waved her hand, and Suyu was thrown to the riverbank. Suyu came to himself and asked, "Who are you?" The redwood Xia Jingyu did not look back. She followed the boat and went further and further away. When she was about to disappear, a faint voice came, "Qing Yun, Qing Yun, Qing Yun." Suyu's heart was in turmoil. Were there really such similar people in this world? They had the same face, but they were different people. The world was spinning, and the great power of time and space pulled Suyu out of the flow of time and space. In a daze, Suyu heard a kind voice. When he opened his eyes, he saw Luo Shui's anxious face and the tree goddess who was crying beside him. "Ah, you are awake." Luo Shui was surprised. The tree goddess looked at him with surprise on her face. Then, she punched Suyu fiercely. "Humph! I am so disappointed that I thought I could share your property after you died." Suyu's eyes were still full of confusion. Everything that happened in the time gate was like a dream, which seemed very unreal. Especially at the end, he met the redwood Xia Jingyu in the flow of time and space, or rather, a woman named Qing Yun, which was incredible. After a long while, Suyu's thoughts returned to reality. He found himself standing in front of a stone door, which was covered with dust. His body was also covered with dust. Suyu asked blankly, "What happened?" The tree goddess wiped her tears and complained, "You've been gone for a year and a half. Your soul has dissipated, and your vitality is gone. We thought you were dead. 1.5 years. Suyu jumped up suddenly, and his eyes widened. "What did you say? 1.5 years?" The tree goddess was taken aback. She punched him in the chest and said, "What else can I do? You've been in the dimensional rift for 1.5 years. If it wasn't for the fact that we knew you were in the dimensional rift, I'm afraid we would have thought you were dead and buried you when we saw your lifeless body. How could 1.5 years have passed? So he was quite surprised. That was the long flow of time and space. If one went in and came back from the same place, it would hardly waste any time. Wait, some memories flashed in Suyu's mind. It seemed that he had encountered a great conspiracy. Suyu was shocked. Thinking back carefully, Suyu broke out in a cold sweat. He had just slipped into the future for a while, but he was 1.5 years later. Without a doubt, he had transmigrated to 1.5 years in the future. What was even worse was that there was less than half a year left before the birth of the sinful woman. A sense of urgency reverberated in Suyu's chest. He immediately stared at the door of time. Once the door was opened, it would connect to Yun Yazi and demonic sword Wuya, the two almighty beings of heaven and earth. They were, and he Yun, who had Suyu, held the stone gate and put it away. However, just as Suyu's palm came into contact with the stone door, something strange happened. From inside the stone door, an incomparably huge pitch-black palm stretched out, exactly the same as the one seen in the flow of time and space. Suyu's eyes turned cold. That group of mysterious existences had not given up yet. They followed the flow of time and space to attack again. You are courting death. Suyu's eyes were full of hatred. She had tried to kill Suyu many times, and great disasters had befallen him everywhere. Because of this, Xia Jingyu had died. What did he do to them? Why did they try to kill him again and again? However, when the giant palm struck, it was a fatal attack that contained the power of a Star River Overlord. It was enough to shatter Suyu's body and completely erase him from this world. Get out of here! Suyu waved his hand. A creature with golden scales came out of the 9 jade spiritual pearl. It was the Azura envoy. He was still in a daze when he sensed danger. He couldn't resist Suyu's order and subconsciously tried to block it. However, as soon as they fought, the Azura envoy was shocked and said, "It's the Calamity Palm. You are from the Divine Lady tribe." The Azura envoy's golden body couldn't block the palm and was smashed by the black palm. The blood-red soul hidden in his body was also destroyed by the black palm. Before he died, the Azura envoy screamed, "Suyu, you killed me." Before he finished speaking, he was completely erased from the world. However, his death was not without benefits. The counterattack before his death forced the giant black palm back into the stone gate. It was only then that Suyu was safe and sound. Feeling the terrible power left in the air, as well as the vague calamity, Suyu had a lingering fear. A dignified Star River Overlord was smashed into pieces by the so-called Calamity Palm. If it was him, thinking about it, Suyu's murderous intent soared to the sky. The Divine Lady tribe. Why did you have to kill me? Suyu. Looking at the floating soul fragments of the Azura envoy, Suyu felt even more hatred. The powerful fighter given to him by Demon Sword Wuya was destroyed by the Divine Lady tribe, or rather, by the Calamity Fairy. The Tree Goddess and Luo Shuei witnessed the shocking scene and were speechless for a long time. Suyu simply picked up the scattered divine blood nearby and looked at the body that was smashed by the giant black palm. Under the power of the giant palm, they rushed to the end of the Star River. It would be extremely troublesome to find them one by one. What Suyu lacked the most now was time. Pass down the order to collect the remains of the Azura envoy and the divine blood, Suyu said. Luo Shui heard the hidden meaning. Where are you going? The God Realm. And I have to leave now. Suyu was anxious. There was only half a year left. Any later, and everything would be too late. If he waited for the sinful lady to be born, the 2 great God Realms would not be able to defeat her, let alone seize her divine blood. If he wanted to seize it, he had to do it while she was sealed. Luo Shui and the Tree Goddess looked at each other, not understanding where Suyu's urgency came from. However, the two tacitly said in unison, "I'll go with you." Suyu thought about it and did not refuse. "Okay, let's go. We don't have much time." They did not even have time to reorganize the God Realm of the Empire after the Great Calamity. They went straight to the Sky Lake. Along the way, Suyu was shocked to find that the huge Star River had disappeared. What happened? Suyu asked in surprise. The tree goddess said 1.5 years ago, the source of the Star River suddenly stopped flowing, and the Star River continuously fell into the Sky Lake. Naturally, it dried up day by day. Half a year ago, it was completely drained. Dried up. Suyu recalled the scene he saw on the cliff and felt relieved. So that was it. They arrived at the Sky Lake. The lake had dried up, leaving only a huge, bottomless cave. Without the Star River's water, the Sky Lake had lost its suction power. Some of the creatures left in the God Realm had climbed up the Sky Lake through the tunnel and were exploring nearby. Suyu ignored them and plunged into the tunnel. At the same time, the demon realm of the past had been destroyed in the war, and the demons were wandering everywhere. Most of the demons had surrendered to the God Realm Empire, and only a small number had become roving bandits, robbing, killing, and looting everywhere. The vicinity of the demon realm had become their stronghold. On the star closest to the devil realm, they even established a barbarian tribe. In the tribe, besides these roving bandits, there were many hostages they had captured. Among them were kind demons, and there were also creatures of the nearby Star River. There were also some special existences, such as a middle-aged woman with a soul and a young man whose cultivation had been destroyed. The middle-aged woman's chest was penetrated by a special demonic artifact, and she was nailed to a stone pillar, which made it difficult for her to escape. Her hands and feet were not tied, because the demons needed her to use the power of her soul to craft some special demonic artifacts that could be sold. Because she had overused the power of her soul for a long time, her soul was very weak. If this continued, it would be impossible for her soul to recover, let alone rebuild her body. Slap! All of a sudden, a whip lashed out, causing his soul to sizzle. The middle-aged woman's soul was in great pain, and she screamed miserably, which made people feel pity for her. *M*, hurry up. If you don't finish it by tonight, you will miss the deal. Humph! I will make you beg for death. The middle-aged woman's soul hurriedly begged for mercy. I will. If one looked carefully, they would discover that there were countless whip marks on her body. Some of them had even injured the depths of her soul, and they were still emitting excruciating pain. Not too far away from her, there was a youth whose feet were bound in chains. His cultivation had been wasted, and he was struggling to move a giant boulder to build a city wall. His entire body was covered in blood. His exposed skin wasn't intact at all. Some of his wounds were new, and some of them were old wounds that were difficult to recover from. What was most striking was that there was a rotten area on his left chest that was filled with maggots. Because he had used too much strength, the youth had affected the wound on his chest. He sucked in a breath of cold air, put down the boulder, and rubbed his chest. But because of this slight movement, what he received was a vicious blow to his back. A fierce demon carrying a spiked club smashed into his shoulder, the tremendous force causing the youth to stumble and fall to the ground. Then, the demon holding the spiked club wickedly grinned and stomped his head into the mud. The great enemy that Emperor Yu of the God Realm hunted down was trampled by a small ant like me. I really feel sorry for Emperor Yu. On the other side, the emaciated demon holding a long whip couldn't help but sneer. He is nothing. This is the female emperor of the God Realm. Unfortunately, Emperor Yu is so wise and powerful that he drove her away as soon as he came back, and even shattered her soul. These two were also humble existences in the Devil Realm, but now they could easily trample on them. The pleasure of trampling on the powerful existences that used to be famous could not be described with words. The two who were tortured by the demons were none other than the former Dakini, Gu Taishu. Hearing this, the Dakini secretly clenched her fists, but she didn't dare to refute. Instead, she worked hard, because if she dared to show any dissatisfaction, she would be beaten even more severely. In the mud, Gu Taishu's expression couldn't be seen clearly. His head was deeply stepped into the mud. He wanted to resist, but as a disabled person, he couldn't do so at all. He clenched his fists tightly, showing the unwillingness and anger in his heart. Hell, look at this. You still want to resist. The demon with the spiked club noticed Gu Taishu's palms and sneered. He grabbed Gu Taishu's hair and pulled his head out of the mud. Look at this face. Heh, who would have thought that he was Gu Taishu? The demon with the spiked club grinned hideously. He grabbed a handful of mud from the ground with his right hand and stuffed it into his mouth. Chapter 15:31. What he got in return was a lightning-fast slap from the emaciated demon, which made his cheeks red and swollen. The emaciated demon sneered. Do you think you are still the level 3 deity that everyone fears for your life? Hee, in the hands of us brothers, you're just like these maggots. The whip in his hand fiercely poked at his rotten chest, poking at the maggots wriggling inside. Gu Taishu's wound was stimulated, and he could not help but gasp in pain. However, as soon as he opened his mouth, a handful of stinky, dirty, muddy water was stuffed into his mouth. Then, the mace demon pinched his mouth to prevent him from spitting it out, and said fiercely, "Swallow it." Then he slapped him hard in the face. The repeated slaps made Gu Taishu a little dazed. A mouthful of dirty, muddy water slid down his throat, and he finally swallowed it all. Aha! Look, the level 3 deity in the past is eating mud. TSK, how sad. Gu Taishu was lying on the ground, his heart full of humiliation, and his eyes were filled with sad tears. He gritted his teeth, endured the urge to vomit, and begged for mercy. I beg you, please give me a quick death. His current life was worse than death. We haven't had enough fun yet. The mace demon laughed and said, we have recently caught a few special human men. They don't like women, but they like handsome men. You're actually quite good-looking, and I believe that those men with special hobbies will love you very much. In the mud, Gu Taishu's body suddenly trembled. Imagining that those men would press him down and bully him, he wanted to die immediately so that he would not suffer more humiliation. He's afraid. Come, drag him away and let those men of the human clan have a taste of him. We'll watch the show from the sidelines. The demon with the wolf fang mace picked up Gu Taishu's foot and dragged him toward a tent as if he was a dead dog. The nearby demons all smiled evilly and gathered around to watch the show, competing to see this strange scene. No, Gu Taishu screamed. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to die. He did not want to live a life worse than death anymore. Suddenly, Gu Taishu found that a huge fireball was shot from the starry sky. At the same time, the tribe issued an urgent warning, and many demons fled. However, the fireball was filled with extremely domineering energy. The moment the fiends flew up, they were pulverized. Even the tribe's strongest tribe leader, a fourth firmament fiend celestial, did not survive. He was destroyed on the spot. The fireball struck the star in a perfectly straight line, shattering it into pieces. When the flames dissipated and the dust settled, a shocking scene was revealed. Broken limbs and corpses of the devil race were everywhere. Not a single devil race member was intact. Not a single devil race member had survived the entire star. In an instant, all the living beings on the planet were annihilated. However, a maniacal laughter came from a huge pit filled with billowing smoke and dust. When the smoke dissipated, a young man could clearly be seen lying in a pile of golden flesh and blood, gorging himself on it. Every time he swallowed a mouthful, his cultivation would rise explosively. With a mouth full of blood, Gu Taishu let out a hideous laugh. He threw his head back and laughed. Heaven never bars one's way. When I was at my lowest point, heaven sent me precious flesh and blood to bring me back to life. Suddenly, an ancient divine Laksana appeared behind him. It looked ferocious and bloodthirsty. If Zhang Wushuang were here, he would definitely know what Gu Taishu was doing. He was cultivating the body of 9 gods. It was a mysterious physique from 10,000 years ago, and it could cultivate 9 kinds of Dharma idol with unfathomable power. This physique was either inborn or acquired through evolution. If it was the latter, it would need to devour a large amount of blood essence of strong men to evolve from the body of 9 spirits to the body of 9 gods. Zhang Wushuang had been suppressing Gu Taishu and forbade him from cultivating this technique because it was against the harmony of the heavens. Unexpectedly, Gu Taishu had accidentally obtained the body of the Azura emissary. The power contained in this body was unimaginable. Gu Taishu's strength recovered and continued to soar. As he chewed, he couldn't stop laughing. He laughed so hard that tears were dripping down his cheeks. When he had devoured more than half of the body, he had recovered his previous cultivation. However, he intentionally left the hideous wound on his chest unhealed. Feeling the excruciating pain coming from his chest, Gu Taishu said fiercely, "Su Yu, I will never forget what I have endured. The humiliation and pain you have made me suffer, I will make you pay me back 100 times, 1,000 times over." When he finished speaking, he rolled up the remaining flesh and blood and came to the stone pillar that had nailed the soul of Dakini. The stone pillar had long been destroyed, and Dakini had not escaped. "Dakini, I will help you pay back what you have suffered to Su Yu," Gu Taishu said in a low voice. He bowed and flew away. In the Lost God Realm. As expected, the seawater in the Lost God Realm had receded. The Lost God Realm, which had been submerged in the seawater for a long time, was exposed to the surface. Luo Shuei sighed softly. "I didn't expect that when I came back, everything would have changed. I wonder how the sect master and the temple master are doing." He had been away for nearly 2 years. He had no idea how the Lost God Realm had changed. I should find someone to ask about the current situation. Although Su Yu was in a hurry, he understood that more haste, less speed. This was not the time to be reckless. When they left, the Lost God Realm was in a state of chaos. The 4 great empires, the mysterious mermaid emperor, and the situation was complicated. Rushing in recklessly would only cause more trouble. Everyone nodded and flew towards the Lost God Realm. However, the dried-up Lost God Realm was nothing short of a disaster for the creatures who had evolved to adapt to the God Realm. Along the way, there were endless corpses. They had all dried up and died. Along the way, there were no living creatures. When they arrived in front of an abandoned and broken warship, Su Yu stared at the warship with nostalgia in his eyes. When he had mistakenly entered the Lost God Realm, his first stop was here, the Mermaid Tribe. The abandoned Sacred Sky warship was still inserted into the ground. However, he could keenly sense that there were living creatures in the Sacred Sky warship, and there were many of them. In a flash, the 3 of them teleported over and stood outside the Sacred Sky warship on an abandoned crack, looking down at the scene below. Inside the Sacred Sky warship, there was still half a tank of water. All the mermaids were in the water. At the moment, they gathered together and seemed to be discussing something. "Little princess, for the sake of the big picture, please go up," an old mermaid said, bowing. A beautiful little mermaid was forced to a corner by all the mermaids, facing the burning eyes of tens of thousands of mermaids. The little mermaid looked sad and angry. She said angrily, "Are you all confused? How can you listen to the slanderous words of General Blackfish? Have you forgotten so quickly who caused my sister's death? Princess Greenbeard's fate is unknown. Who was it who was loyal to the Mermaid Emperor, causing us to fight for many years and suffer heavy casualties, to the point where there are less than 10,000 people left? Now you actually believe his words and want to sacrifice me to welcome the sea again? How ridiculous is this?" In the crowd, a giant creature with a black body and a black fish head crossed his arms in front of his chest and said with a faint smile, "Little princess, you are wrong. How could I be the one who killed Princess Greenpearl? It was obvious that she couldn't resist the temptation. She eloped with a man. As for the situation of the Mermaid Tribe, haha, don't you think that the Mermaid Tribe is now the leader of all the tribes and has become a respected race? As long as the Mermaid Emperor is alive, the Mermaid Tribe will be glorious." The little mermaid said angrily, "Nonsense! My sister would never elope with a man. Also, how glorious is the situation of the Mermaid Tribe? When a Mermaid Emperor occupied the Empire of Darkness, did he ever allow the Mermaid Tribe to get any benefits? Humph, during the war, when there were sacrifices, the Mermaid Tribe was there. When it was time to divide the world and enjoy the benefits, the mermaid tribe was not there. How can you go against your conscience and say good things for such a mermaid emperor? General Blackfish put on a fake smile. Little princess, you are just talking nonsense because you are not willing to sacrifice for the mermaid tribe, right? Can you bear to see your people continue to struggle in this pool of water that is drying up day by day? As long as you are willing to sacrifice yourself, you can trigger the curtain of heaven and the sea water will descend again. This is the prophecy that the mermaid emperor asked the fortune teller to make. The little mermaid said, I have sent people to the endless origin to find the reason for the drying up. I believe there will be results soon. Everyone, please be calm and don't listen to the rumors. But before she finished speaking, General Blackfish interrupted. So, little princess is not willing to sacrifice for your people? The little mermaid was furious and pointed at him. You ambitious guy, don't even think about killing me and seizing the throne of the tribe. The mermaid emperor had already ascended to the throne, and the throne of the mermaid tribe was naturally inherited by her, the only mermaid princess. General Blackfish was aggressive, trying to kill her and seize the throne. Little princess, please consider the fact that we are all your people. Please sacrifice yourself. Yes, you can't just watch us all dry up and die, can you? Little princess, I beg you, the water here is getting dirtier and dirtier. My children are sick, please be considerate of us. The little mermaid was so angry that her whole body was trembling, and she pointed at them speechlessly. Sacrificing herself for the sake of the greater good? What was the point of asking others to sacrifice themselves so openly? Looking at the pot of oil that had already been prepared, the little mermaid's eyes were filled with sorrow. Were these her people? Ignorant, cruel, and indifferent. General Blackfish lowered his arms, separated the crowd, and walked towards the little mermaid step by step. With a dignified face, he said, Little princess, I'm sorry, but for the sake of your people, I think you have to make a sacrifice. What are you doing? The little mermaid screamed. But how could she be a match for General Blackfish? She was easily captured by General Blackfish. General Blackfish secretly sneered, flew to the altar, picked her up, and threw her into the pot of oil. He said seriously, Little princess, your people will be grateful to you. The mermaids below cheered, as if once she died, the sea would come immediately. But the moment she fell into it, a branch broke through the air and swept the little mermaid away at the critical moment. The tree goddess pulled her back and stared at Suyu resentfully. How could you keep your composure? Suyu smiled. Ha. Anyway, even if I didn't make a move, you would have, wouldn't you? Chapter 1532. General Blackfish was slightly shocked. He looked up and stared at Suyu with a hint of confusion in his eyes. Who are you? How dare you interfere with the mermaid tribe's sacrifice? After 10 years, General Blackfish had already forgotten about Suyu. Firstly, it had been a long time. Secondly, Suyu had changed too much. Thirdly, Suyu was too weak back then, so he didn't have a deep impression of him. Suyu smiled faintly. It seems that you don't remember me. Hey, who are you? The little mermaid asked curiously with her charming emerald eyes. She had also forgotten about Suyu. After all, it had been 10 years. The tree goddess grinned. Human traffickers selling little beauties. Are you afraid? The little mermaid stuck out her tongue. Only a ghost would believe that. Suyu smiled. Many years had passed, but the little beauty was still mischievous and lively. Meeting an old friend, and Suyu needed information, it was only natural for him to rescue the little mermaid. Let's go. Suyu turned around and didn't bother to pay attention to General Blackfish. The little grievances in the past were like smoke now that his cultivation had improved tremendously. It was not worth mentioning, and he didn't have any interest in revenge. Stop. However, Suyu wanted to stop, but General Blackfish didn't let him go. Swish, swish, swish. 8 deity-level creatures flew out, including General Blackfish. The other 7 were always hidden in the crowd. At every critical moment, they would cause a commotion, causing many mermaids to call for the little mermaid to be sacrificed. Seeing that the little mermaid was about to be taken away, they naturally couldn't help but show themselves. Suyu was surprised. "Oh, you want to keep us?" General Blackfish stared at the tree goddess next to Suyu, a little afraid. This green-robed woman easily took the little mermaid from his hands, but he didn't react in time. This showed that she was very powerful. He said in a low voice, "I don't want to keep you. I have always been kind to people, and I don't want to make enemies unless it is necessary. However, please give me some face and let the princess go." Suyu said lightly, "You don't even know me. Why should I give you face?" General Blackfish's face fell, and the 7 deities around him slowly formed a semicircle. He said, "So, you intend to be our enemy?" The tree goddess couldn't stand it anymore and sneered. "You only realized it now? Idiot." General Blackfish gritted his teeth and revealed a ruthless look. "Brothers, attack. Pay special attention to that female tree goddess." Swish, swish, swish. All of a sudden, the 7 figures split into 3 groups and attacked Suyu, the tree goddess, and Luo Shui respectively. The tree goddess laughed. "Don't do anything. I'll do it alone." She was a level 4 deity, and most of the deities besieging her were level 5 deities. How could they be a match for the tree goddess? Puff, 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 puff. After a series of dull explosions, the tree goddess summoned hundreds of huge vines, catching the 7 gods off guard. When they came to their senses, they were dumbfounded to find that they had been subdued by the vines. Their divine powers were greatly suppressed, and their divine bodies were tightly locked. General Blackfish was shocked. Level 4 deity? He turned into a beam of black light and immediately fled into the distance like a black fish. The tree goddess curled her lips. "If you escape, where will I put my face?" Chila, a sharp and slender vine, wrapped itself around him at a speed 10 times faster than General Blackfish. General Blackfish was shocked. He took out his divine weapon immediately and tried to cut the vine off. However, a thumb-sized crack appeared on the divine weapon, while the vine remained intact. "Come back obediently." The tree goddess hooked her finger and pulled General Blackfish back with a whoosh. The 8 deities were subdued in an instant. Seeing this, the mermaids kept quiet out of fear. What should we do with them? Sell their souls or their bodies? As the tree goddess spoke, she unceremoniously swept away all their belongings. Even their treasured clothes were not spared. The faces of the 8 deities turned green. "Can you leave a pair of underwear for me? It's worthless." "No. This pair of underwear is made of the fur of a precious beast. It can be sold for a few crystals. How many crystals do you still need? I am the poorest deity in the world. I don't even want a single copper coin." Soon, the 8 deities, who only had their underwear left, were hung upside down on the vines. Luo Shui's pretty face turned red. Then she said, "Sister Tree Goddess, you should pay attention to your image. You have taken off their pants. Why did you leave their underwear? They're all gold-plated. If you scrape them, you might be able to scrape off a layer of gold powder." The tree goddess's eyes lit up. Then she praised, "Sister Shui, you are so smart. Why didn't I think of that? Even a mosquito's leg is valuable." Suyu's eyelids twitched slightly. Luo Shui had been led astray by the tree goddess. After plucking all their clothes, the tree goddess said with satisfaction, "Hey, have you thought about how to deal with them?" Little Sister Shui said that there is a special brothel in the Lost God territory. There are many men who have been trained to serve rich old women. They have soft skin and tender flesh, and they are all at the level of gods. I believe that they will definitely be sold for a good price." Hearing this, the faces of the 8 deities turned from green to black. Now, they even wanted to die. After thinking for a while, Suyu said, "When did I say I would deal with them? Untie them." The tree goddess, Luo, Shui, General Blackfish, and the other deities were stunned. Why? The tree goddess was reluctant to untie them. However, when she was stared at by Suyu, she immediately released them. Her face was full of regret. It was as if she had lost all her savings. General Blackfish and the others covered their private parts with embarrassment and awe. Then he said, What do you want?" Suyu said, "I don't want anything. I just want to recommend you to be the emperor of the mermaid tribe. Ah, are you serious? General Blackfish was shocked. The tree goddess and Luo Shui also widened their eyes. They didn't know what he meant. Suyu said calmly, "Do I need to lie to you?" As he spoke, he waved his hand and summoned the little beauty. Then, he searched her body and found a mermaid scepter that had been passed down from generation to generation. It symbolized the imperial power. "Take it." Suyu threw it to General Blackfish. General Blackfish was stunned and felt that it was unreal. The little mermaid was furious. She struggled and shouted, "Ah, be Astra-starred. How dare you help this bad guy? I won't forgive you." Suyu stopped her indifferently and said, "You can't keep the throne, so you should naturally hand it over to someone capable. General Blackfish is stronger and more prestigious than you. He is more suitable to be the mermaid emperor than you. Whether you accept your fate or not, you can't change the reality." The little mermaid was so angry that she cried. She couldn't move her body, but her tears flowed like a broken dam. She sobbed intermittently. "I can't accept this. I hate you." Suyu was unmoved and said to General Blackfish, "Now, you are the mermaid emperor." General Blackfish was overjoyed. He held the scepter and pointed it at his forehead. A golden brilliance condensed in the scepter and formed a crown on General Blackfish's head. At the same time, the crown on the little mermaid's head quickly dimmed until it disappeared. The imperial power had changed hands. General Blackfish finally realized his long-cherished wish of many years. He successfully seized the imperial power of the mermaid tribe and became the tribe king. After a moment of hesitation, the mermaids below greeted respectfully. "Greetings, mermaid emperor." Hearing the greeting he had been dreaming of, General Blackfish's heart flew to the ninth heaven. He laughed and saluted Suyu. "Thank you, Your Excellency." No, I am very grateful." Suyu waved his hand. "Don't be so quick to thank me. The mermaid tribe is in deep trouble and needs your help." General Blackfish laughed. "That's easy. I will find a way to get fresh water. Why do you have to go so far?" However, Suyu smiled faintly. "Isn't there a ready-made way now?" The tree goddess suddenly understood Suyu's intention. With a flick of her finger, a vine flew over and wrapped around General Blackfish. General Blackfish was shocked. "What are you going to do now?" "I'm going to use your method to get water for the mermaid tribe, of course." Suyu smiled, but there was no warmth in his smile. According to the prophecy, as long as the mermaid emperor is sacrificed alive, rain will fall, and the sea will return to its former glory. Now that you are the mermaid emperor, you should have the responsibility of being the mermaid emperor. Lord Mermaid Emperor, please have mercy on your people and sacrifice yourself as a living sacrifice. Now that things had developed to this point, who could not understand Suyu's true intentions? He was going to give them a taste of their own medicine. General Blackfish snapped. "Are you kidding me?" He hurriedly said, "Everyone, don't believe his nonsense. I have other ways to find a new water source for everyone." However, he was horrified to find that many mermaids were staring at him with blazing eyes. The tree goddess chuckled and said, "Those are your original words. We didn't embellish them." General Blackfish raised his voice and shouted, "Everyone, please calm down. Things are not as simple as you think." However, all he got was a sneer from the tree goddess. "Mermaid Emperor, please consider the overall situation. Sacrifice yourself to help everyone. Don't you love your people?" The mermaids below begged for mercy. "Lord New Mermaid Emperor, please sacrifice us alive. We will be grateful for your kindness for 100 generations. Lord Mermaid Emperor, my child is dying. Before you find a water source, please bear with the pain for a while. When my child grows up, he will come to pay his respects to you." Hearing that they wanted him to die to help them, General Blackfish said angrily, "Get lost. Why should I die and you all live well?" He glared at Suyu and said, "Let go of me immediately, or our king will never let you go." Suyu said lightly, "If he dares to come to me, I will make sure he never returns. Sacrifice him." The tree goddess's eyes were cold. With a pull of her vines, General Blackfish was pressed into the boiling oil pot. With a miserable howl, General Blackfish was blasted to death, leaving behind only a charred corpse. The mermaids around cheered excitedly and looked up at the sky, waiting for the rain to fall. However, the sky was clear, without any wind or clouds. Why hasn't there been any rain yet? Strange, could it be that General Blackfish has just ascended to the throne, so the sacrifice failed? So, we still have to ask our little princess to sacrifice herself? Chapter 1533. A group of ignorant, selfish, indifferent, and numb creatures. Such creatures were not worthy of her protection. It seems that you don't want to go back. Come with me, and I'll ask you some questions, Suyu said lightly. The group quickly left and went straight to the glazed crystal mountains. The charred corpse of the black fish general was abandoned at the side. No one noticed that a thumb-long black fish image had vanished with a whoosh. On a nameless hill, the little mermaid stared at the big mermaid who suddenly appeared in front of her. At first, she thought it was an illusion, but when she confirmed that it was a real person, she cried out in surprise and hugged her. The sisters reunited and chatted for a long time before Luju said, "Mr. Su has done us a great favor. If he wants to know something, you don't have to worry about it. Tell him everything, understand?" The little mermaid nodded and said to Suyu, "Ask away." Suyu said, "Tell me about the situation in the God Realm and the entire Lost Nation." "You asked the right person. Our mermaid tribe was once the center of the Coalition Command. We have news from all sides, so we have a very detailed understanding of the situation. It's better than asking someone in the Empire." The little mermaid proudly raised her pair of baby pigeons. Now that the war in the Lost Nation has subsided, the Empire of Darkness has been annihilated and replaced by the Taichu Empire established by the Mermaid Emperor. The wizard tribe has also fallen into a state of recuperation because of the heavy blow and no longer set foot in the divine realm. The world is peaceful. Peace? It was the strange calm before the storm. Hearing about the heaven-defying empire, Suyu's heart moved. Who is in charge of the heaven-defying empire now? Of course it is Nitian Hanxing. Nitian Gyun fell in the Lost Nation, so he naturally took over the empire. The little mermaid looked at Suyu strangely. It was him. Speaking of Nitian Hanxing, his strength has grown incredibly. Not only has he reached level 2, but he is about to break through to level 1. It is said that not long ago, he met with the Mermaid Emperor Tai Qin Yunwan and Bing Hua Sangxing and signed a peace agreement. During that time, they had a duel. Do you know what happened? The little mermaid's eyes were filled with awe and worship. Nitian Hanxing, with his own strength, managed to suppress the three of them, leaving them with only the ability to defend themselves. It is said that he only used one hand from the beginning to the end. He did not even use half of his strength. It's really hard to imagine how powerful he will be if he goes all out. Suyu and Luo Shui's faces turned grave as they listened. Back then, Nitian Hanxing had escaped a calamity and had become so powerful. According to the description, he was even stronger than Nitian Gyun in the past. If they really fought one-on-one, it would be very dangerous. However, with the great enemy of the sinful lady in front of him, Suyu had no time to pay too much attention to Nitian Hanxing. He had to find a way to enter the underground of the celestial crystal mountains and get close to the sinful lady. Knowing that the world was at peace, Suyu had no more worries. His gaze locked onto the glazed crystal mountains. After several hours, he stood outside the mountains. However, someone else had arrived before him. That was a fish-body human head creature with a crown on its head. It sat beneath the mountain range, drinking wine in a pavilion. Beside him were 4 level 3 deities guarding him. Green Bead and the Little Mermaid stared at him with hatred in their eyes. This person was none other than the Mermaid Emperor, the current monarch of the Taichu dynasty. "Were you waiting for me?" Suyu asked calmly. From behind the Mermaid Emperor, a black shadow leaped out, his eyes full of hatred. "It's him, Lord Mermaid Emperor. Please help me." The Mermaid Emperor looked sideways, and his originally indifferent face gradually showed a trace of doubt. A trace of familiarity was gradually replaced by a touch of surprise. His expression changed again and again before he regained his composure. As if in deep thought, he asked, "How did he treat you?" The Black Shadow was undoubtedly the remnant soul of General Blackfish. He said with hatred, "This unknown kid actually used me as a living sacrifice. His methods are vicious, and his heart is vicious. He doesn't take you seriously, Lord Mermaid Emperor." The Mermaid Emperor took a sip and said calmly, "Blackfish, there is one thing you are mistaken about. He is not some unknown kid, but a big shot that you definitely know." Big shot? General Blackfish was stunned. In this world, there are only a few people who can disregard me, and he is one of them. General Blackfish's expression changed. Who is he?" The Mermaid Emperor smiled slightly and spat out 2 words, "Suyu." "It's him." General Blackfish gasped, his expression filled with indescribable awe and fear. The invincible existence that led the wizard tribe and killed Nitian Guyun? Some people had already analyzed that Suyu's combat power was above that of the rulers of the 4 great empires. In this era, only the sudden emergence of Nitian Hanxing might be qualified to be on an equal footing with him. After all, he was the existence that killed the strongest king with his own hands. How could he not know such a person? However, he never dreamed that the person he had invited the Mermaid Emperor to kill was such a world-shaking overlord. "So, do you know who you have offended?" the Mermaid Emperor said lightly. General Blackfish knelt on the ground with a thud. "I deserve to die. I have provoked a great enemy for Lord Mermaid Emperor." The Mermaid Emperor waved his sleeves and helped General Blackfish up. He smiled and said, "Why do you deserve to die?" General Blackfish rubbed his palms, which were full of cold sweat. Hearing this sentence, he felt much more at ease. It seemed that the Mermaid Emperor had decided to protect him. As the Mermaid Emperor, he also had his own dignity. If he could not protect his subordinate, how could he win the hearts of the people? However, the next sentence of the Mermaid Emperor threw him into the abyss. "Because you deserve to die 1,000 times." General Blackfish only felt his vision go black, and the remnant of his soul was crushed, leaving nothing behind. On the face of the Mermaid Emperor, there was still a calm smile. He looked at Suyu and said, "I am sorry to have embarrassed myself. Handsome Su." Suyu stared at this person deeply. The Mermaid Emperor should be the tomb guard spirit. Not only was he extremely powerful, but he was also extremely cruel. He killed people with a smile, and those he killed were those who had been loyal to him since the beginning. It could be said that he was inhumane. Suyu said lightly, "Is there anything else?" The Mermaid Emperor was still smiling. "I hope to form an alliance with Handsome Su." It was impossible for such a person to be honest, not to mention that his identity was unknown and quite mysterious. How could Suyu trust him with his back? "I don't think there is a need for us to form an alliance." Suyu refused without hesitation, showing no mercy. However, the Mermaid Emperor did not care, and said with a faint smile, "I think that in the Lost Nation, the 2 of us are the ones who have the most need to form an alliance." Suyu said, "Why do you think so? You and I don't know each other, and we have never crossed paths." "Ha!" the Mermaid Emperor laughed. "You appearing in front of this mountain range means that we have crossed paths." Suyu's pupils narrowed slightly. "You mean the underground ancient tomb?" "Haha, exactly," the Mermaid Emperor said. "Between you and me, we have common enemies, the sinful girl and the demonic dragon." Suyu was slightly surprised. The demonic dragon wanted to kill Suyu. How do you know about this? The more the other party behaved like this, the more Suyu felt uneasy. He shook his head and said, "Even so, there is no need to form an alliance." "Haha, it is necessary because—" the Mermaid Emperor dragged his voice. "I know the weakness of the sinful girl and the demonic dragon, a weakness that can destroy them in advance." Boom. Chapter 1534. Weakness? How could such a powerful existence have a weakness? Suyu was skeptical. He stared at him and said, "At least, you have to make me believe you first. Only then will I believe what you say. Otherwise, if you harbor evil intentions and casually point out a weakness that doesn't exist, wouldn't I be courting death if I rashly oppose the sinful lady and the demonic dragon? Huh. The mermaid emperor smiled. Then what will make you believe me? Suyu said deeply. At the very least, let me know what you are. I've seen countless tomb guardian spirits, but this is the first time I've seen one like you, who has been growing stronger and stronger and also possesses supreme intelligence. The mysteriousness of this mermaid emperor was really incredible. He had come from the ancient tomb, and his strength had skyrocketed in a strange manner. After he had appeared, he had immediately started a war, and in the end, he had seized the Eternal Darkness dynasty and become the monarch of one of the 4 great dynasties of the God territory. In terms of mystery, no one could surpass him. Haha, the monarchs of the other 3 dynasties have asked me the same question. My answer is, I am the reincarnation of the World Annihilation Emperor. The mermaid emperor laughed. Suyu asked calmly, so did they believe you? Of course not. Then what's your answer? Suyu stared at him. The mermaid emperor's smile faded, and his expression turned serious as he said, I did not lie. Was he really the reincarnation of the World Annihilation Imperial Warrior? Was that even possible? In this world, are there really living beings that can reincarnate? In your eyes, what is the tomb guard spirit? The mermaid emperor asked Suyu. Suyu thought for a moment and said, after the death of the divine warriors of heaven and earth, evil creatures were born from their ancient tombs. Evil creatures. The mermaid emperor smiled self-deprecatingly. Then do you know how the tomb guard spirit was born? This question stumped Suyu. He only knew that the tomb guardian spirits came from the ancient tombs of the divine warriors of heaven and earth and were there to guard the remains. But he did not know where they came from. It's the soul fragment of the divine warrior of heaven and earth. The mermaid emperor said indifferently, the divine emperor of heaven and earth is the existence closest to the path master. In essence, he has already mastered the great path law of heaven and earth and is immortal and indestructible. Especially his soul, which is embedded with the great path law chain, will not perish. Suyu couldn't help but think of the divine thoughts of the divine warrior of Tianyin. The divine sense was of a lower level than the soul fragment. It was just a strand of the divine sense of the divine warrior of heaven and earth. However, even a thought had not been extinguished after hundreds of millions of years. It could be seen that the mermaid emperor's statement was not groundless. Souls can't be destroyed, but they can be crushed. However, the crushed soul fragments are difficult to destroy. They carry a portion of the power of the divine warriors of heaven and earth. They cultivate to become living beings on their own, and because there is no guidance, they condense into all kinds of strange shapes and forms. Hearing this, Suyu was slightly surprised. As it turned out, the so-called wild beasts and tomb guardian spirits were actually the souls of the divine warriors of heaven and earth. Their existence signified the fall of the emperor. Most of them are unable to develop spiritual wisdom. Only a few of them can carry away part of the memories of the divine warriors of heaven and earth, and I am one of them, the mermaid emperor said. Suyu's eyes shone as he shook his head. I still find it hard to believe. Do you have any proof? Evidence? Of course. The mermaid emperor smiled faintly. For example, my memory tells me that the world annihilation plate you imitated has at least 10 parts that are completely wrong, especially the real use of the world annihilation plate. It is completely wrong. Suyu's heart skipped a beat. After thinking about it, he took out the shrunken world annihilation plate. Are you talking about this? The mermaid emperor smiled slightly and said, May I show you? Of course. Suyu's eyes were filled with anticipation. The mermaid emperor took the world annihilation plate, but did not immediately enlarge it or activate the world annihilation cannon. Instead, he held it tightly in his palm and then stared at the mysterious crystal mountains that covered hundreds of millions of miles in the distance. The corners of his mouth curled into a nostalgic smile as he said, Watch carefully. As he weaved a seal with one hand, the world annihilation plate seemed to come to life, spinning rapidly in his palm. Then he raised his hand and threw the world annihilation plate out, spinning rapidly, heading straight for the mysterious crystal mountains. Bang! With a loud roar, The rapidly spinning world annihilation plate cut through the space cracks that were as black as hair. The huge, mysterious crystal mountains were easily cut open. However, this was just the beginning. The world annihilation plate entered the mysterious crystal mountains, and its speed did not slow down. Instead, it sped up, getting faster and faster. Its edge was no longer the space cracks, but the law of space. Endless law descended around the world annihilation plate, following the world annihilation plate. At an increasingly fast speed, it cut through the mysterious crystal mountains, sucking them into the space and crushing them into pieces. After half a cup of tea's time, the world annihilation plate flew back on its own, gradually stopped spinning, and fell back into the palm of the Mermaid Emperor. Meanwhile, the mysterious crystal mountains had undergone earth-shattering changes in just half a cup of tea's time. The entire mysterious crystal mountains, from the mountainside up, were smashed into pieces, leaving only a bare section. The shocking scene stretched for hundreds of millions of miles. The Mermaid Emperor showed a look of approval. Although it is an imitation, the materials and tools used are superior. It is much better than the world annihilation plate that the four great empires jointly imitated. As he spoke, he threw the world annihilation plate back. The edge of the world annihilation plate was still burning hot, but it was not damaged. Su Yu's heart trembled. Was this the real way to use the world annihilation plate? Wasn't this power a little too powerful? It was more than 100 times more powerful than the power of 100 world annihilation cannons. If he had mastered its use earlier, he would not have had to fight the giant of the bitter sea. How is it? Can you trust me now? The Mermaid Emperor smiled lightly. There was no doubt about his identity. Why did you choose to cooperate with me? Su Yu's eyes flickered slightly. The Mermaid Emperor's eyes shone with disdain, as if he was the most powerful emperor in the world. He said, I have observed that in the God realm and outside of the Lost Nation, everyone is incompetent and not capable of taking on great responsibilities. Among the four great empires, Taichin Yunluan is, after all, a woman. She is indecisive and will not achieve great things. Binghua Sangxing is bold, but not astute, headstrong, and self-opinionated. She cannot be trusted. Yonya Zhuyang is brave and astute, but he is helpless. He is like a puppet and cannot be trusted. Nitian Guyun is powerful and far-sighted, but he is arrogant. He will die sooner or later. The Moonwatch sect leader of the Lost Nation keeps a low profile, but he is pedantic and follows the old ways. He is too narrow-minded and will not achieve great things. The 5 strongest existences in the Lost Nation were worthless in the eyes of the Mermaid Emperor. Only you, Su Yu, I have observed you for a long time. The Mermaid Emperor stared at Su Yu, and his eyes shone brightly. In terms of strength, you may not be the strongest, but you can defeat those stronger than you. You are good at using tricks and can often turn disadvantages into advantages. Since you came to the Lost God Realm, what you have done along the way can be regarded as a miracle. Even when I was alive, I had never seen a genius like you. I deeply believe that if I cooperate with you, I will be able to make a name for myself in the great beginning realm, let alone take over the God realm. Su Yu listened and said with a poker face, You are flattering me. However, you seem to have missed one person. The Mermaid Emperor smiled lightly and said, You mean Nitian Hanxing? Exactly. If the information I received is correct, he suppressed the 3 of you with half of his strength. Such strength is far beyond his father's, and in terms of strategy, Nitian Hanxing is not inferior to him, Su Yu said. The Mermaid Emperor said very calmly, he is indeed excellent. In the year and a half that you were missing, he was actually the target I wanted to look for to cooperate with, but since you are back, there is no need to contact him anymore. He continued, Nitian Hanxing's strength and strategy, in general, are on par with you, but this person, the Mermaid Emperor, frowned slightly. If I am not wrong, I am afraid he is going to become an inverse demon. Inverse demon? Su Yu was slightly stunned. The Mermaid Emperor said, Back then, the heaven-defying being's inverse was too strong, beyond his tolerance limit. As a result, he became a demon. Even if someone blocked his sight, he would be brutally killed. Or, if someone looked at him, it would also trigger his inverse will and obliterate the other party. In the end, it developed to the point where he would kill anyone he saw and destroy any cavern world he saw. Anything that stood in his way would be destroyed. Later, it was the other 8 emperors who joined forces to suppress him under the ancient black ice. After 10,000 years of precipitation, he was able to control the overly powerful inverse will and awaken. The Mermaid Emperor was a little worried. Nitian Hanxing has a great inverse will, but he does not have a solid foundation. Coupled with his strong hostility, I think the possibility of him becoming a demon is very high. Now that the emperors have been destroyed, once he becomes an inverse demon, no one can stop him. I am afraid that the harm he will cause will be no less than that of the sinful lady and the demonic dragon. So you heard this and frowned slightly. Was the inverse demon that terrifying, comparable to the sinful lady? Would then, if I kill him in advance, won't everything end? So you said. The Mermaid Emperor shook his head resolutely. Never. He is already on the verge of becoming a demon. If you fail to kill him, his inverse will definitely multiply, and he will definitely become a demon. So you frowned. What a trouble. If you meet him, try not to fight him, and do not go against his will otherwise. The Mermaid Emperor paused. He clearly remembered that when he met Nitian Hanxing last time, his biggest obsession was to kill Suyu. If they met, even if Suyu did not die in his hands, he would still be a hindrance to Nitian Hanxing. With hindrance, the inverse would definitely become stronger. However, was Suyu going to stand still and be killed by him? It's better if you don't meet each other, the Mermaid Emperor said helplessly. After that, he said seriously, in short, you are the best candidate for cooperation. I have the sinful lady's weakness, and you have the unparalleled strategy. If you and I work together, we will be able to kill her before she breaks the seal. Suyu's eyes flashed deeply, and after thinking for a long time, he said, okay, we can cooperate. The Mermaid Emperor laughed. Finally, there's a kindred spirit. As he said that, the Mermaid Emperor took out a spell and handed it to Suyu. As a sign of sincerity, this is the method to control the World Annihilation Plate. I believe it will make you stronger. Suyu's heart was moved, and he was very grateful. Thank you, Mermaid Emperor. I wonder what is the weakness that the Mermaid Emperor mentioned, and do you have a corresponding plan? Suyu asked. The Mermaid Emperor twirled his beard, and his eyes shone brightly. No matter how strong a creature is, there is a weakness, and the sinful lady is no exception. When the 9 emperors joined forces to suppress her, they found something very strange. She was not a complete person. Suyu's eyes were thoughtful. Not a complete person? What do you mean? I mean, the Mermaid Emperor said slowly, she is just a soul, without a physical body. Hearing this, Suyu took a deep breath. She was just a soul, and she had the power to kill the 9 emperors? So, killing her has infinite possibilities. The Mermaid Emperor said deeply. If we had known that she was a soul, maybe the 9 emperors would not have ended up so miserably. Chapter 1535. Soul Body. So you couldn't help but think of Yin Yazi. They were both incredibly powerful soul bodies and equally mysterious and unfathomable. However, Suyu had been in contact with Yin Yazi for a long time. He shook his head and said, at her level, it doesn't matter whether she has a physical body or not. In terms of the strength of her soul alone, she surpasses the divine warriors of heaven and earth. Unless you have a special way to target the soul, this is not a weakness. The Mermaid Emperor showed a look of approval. Haha, it is reassuring to work with you. If others knew that she was a soul body, I am afraid they would immediately be blindly optimistic. Yes, the strength of her soul wasn't something that could be shaken by the sovereigns of heaven and earth. Unfortunately, there was once an abnormally powerful civilization weapon that was created in the divine territory. It was a pity that the sinful woman and the demonic dragon descended before it could be completed. Suyu's heart skipped a beat. Do you have a blueprint? Swish. The Mermaid Emperor threw out a blueprint that he had drawn himself. It was a rather tall humanoid puppet, covered with strange Sanskrit characters. Seeing this picture, Su Yu's pupils shrank slightly. Wasn't this the Brahma puppet that was being built in the World Annihilation Plate? He returned the blueprint calmly and said, "It looks like it is not very powerful. It is only at the level of a level 2 deity." Ha ha ha! The mermaid emperor laughed. "Since I dare to call it a top civilization weapon, how can it only be at the level of a level 2 deity? It looks like an ordinary puppet, but the Sanskrit characters on its body can absorb divine blood. The more it absorbs, the stronger it becomes." Su Yu's brows twitched secretly. There was such an ability? My idea is to absorb the blood of all living beings in the world and make the Brahma puppet reach the level of a pathmaster. Then, it will deal a devastating blow to the soul of the sinful girl. The mermaid emperor said slowly, "This is why I want to unify the world. Without absolute imperial power, it is as difficult as ascending to heaven to force everyone to donate part of their blood. It could reach the level of a pathmaster." Su Yu's pupils shrank, and he secretly took a few breaths. In that case, the Brahma puppet that he was building could also be suppressing the excitement in his heart. Su Yu acted as if nothing had happened and said, "So, your plan is to unify the world first?" "Yes, and the time is too short, less than half a year." The mermaid emperor's eyes darkened slightly, and he said, "I hope you can help me. This is the only way to destroy the sinful girl. Otherwise, any attempt is futile." After pondering for a long time, Su Yu nodded slightly. "The wizard tribe in the Lost Nation is still manageable. I'm confident that I can convince them to donate part of their essence blood. However, I'm not confident at all in the 4 great empires of the God Realm." The mermaid emperor said, "Leave it to me. I'm going to send out an invitation to the 4 emperors to gather again and discuss together. You must be present at that time," he said meaningfully. Su Yu understood what he meant and said, "That's good. I'll go back to the Lost Nation first and discuss with the Moonwatch sect leader. There's no time to lose. Goodbye." The two of them exchanged communication artifacts, and Su Yu flew away. The mermaid emperor flicked his sleeves and immediately rushed back to the Empire of Darkness to issue the invitation. "Big Brother Su, the drawing seems to be the one in your warehouse." Luo Shui's eyes turned. She had also seen the drawing just now. Being extremely intelligent, she seemed to have guessed something and said, "Big Brother Su, do you not trust this reincarnated emperor of the past? Why don't you tell him that you have one too?" Su Yu's eyes gleamed with deep lust, and he said, "Of course not. This person is ruthless and ruthless. Even if he is the reincarnation of the World Annihilation Emperor, we must be careful." Recalling how easily he killed General Blackfish, a subordinate who had followed him since the beginning, Luo Shui was deeply convinced. He turned hostile and killed people with a smile. It was not an exaggeration to be extremely careful when working with such a person. "You guys rest first. I'll rush to the forbidden land of 10,000 demons immediately and meet up with the wizard tribe," Su Yu said. Luo Shui nodded and obediently returned to the World Annihilation Plate. Next, Su Yu immediately used the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole. The divine power that Su Yu possessed now far exceeded that of a level 3 deity and was second only to that of a level 2 deity. Using the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole was effortless. Therefore, he teleported continuously all the way, easily covering hundreds of millions of miles of mountains and rivers. The vast lost forest spun like a phantom under Su Yu's feet. Along the way, as expected, all the land that had sunk into the sea in the past saw the light of day again. The same was true for those ancient forests. Moreover, Su Yu was a little surprised to find that the remaining seawater was receding in one direction. With a thought, Su Yu changed his direction slightly and followed the direction in which the seawater was receding to investigate. Half a day later, Su Yu stood in midair, deeply frowning as he looked down. There was an incomparably huge whirlpool beneath his feet. The seawater in all directions was pouring into the whirlpool, flowing endlessly. The Lost Nation had dried up because of the existence of this whirlpool. In other words, under the whirlpool, there should be a bottomless pit that could contain endless seawater. However, the location of the whirlpool was rather subtle. It happened to be in the center of the Blackwood Forest. More coincidentally, it was in the middle of the forbidden land of 10,000 demons, the forbidden lands of red dust, and the forbidden lands of Azura. Is it really a coincidence? Suyu pondered. All of a sudden, Suyu saw a faint, dark reflection in the whirlpool. It looked like a round bead, but when he looked up, there was nothing in the sky. Suyu was surprised. He fixed his eyes on the water, and the reflection became more and more familiar. After a while, Suyu suddenly remembered what it was. Back then, Suyu had used the sky-splitting yin-yang style to finally extract the wizard ancestor's power that had been sealed in Yongye Chushue's body for many years. Unexpectedly, the power of the wizard ancestor flew into the sky on its own. He especially remembered the excitement and loneliness of the epic-making dragon at that time, saying that this thing was the key left by the wizard ancestor. Until now, Suyu had not understood what the key was. However, it actually appeared in the whirlpool, right in the middle of the 3 forbidden lands. It was incredible. The lost nation, the god realm that was broken into 2, what happened? Suyu's eyes flashed. After a pause, Suyu continued on his way. 2 days later, Suyu arrived at the forbidden land of 10,000 demons. To Suyu's surprise, after 2 years, the forbidden land of 10,000 demons had re-entered a defensive posture. All the scales had shrunk and wrapped into a ball. His arrival immediately attracted the attention of the epic-making dragon, and a small gap was opened. Suyu quickly flashed in, and what he saw was the wizards who had suffered heavy casualties. Including the mistress of the greatest Saint Lady Temple, she was also seriously injured, and it was difficult for her to recover. The rest of the level 3 wizards who were injured were also not few. What happened? Suyu asked immediately as he landed. The mistress of the greatest Saint Lady Temple looked up, and her eyes were filled with joy. Suyu, you are back. When the rest of the wizards heard this, they rushed over one after another, looking both sad and happy. The mistress of the greatest Saint Lady Temple said, Suyu, we were ambushed a few months ago. Many strong wizards died, and countless were injured. Was it Nitian Hanxing? He hasn't given up yet? Suyu frowned. Unexpectedly, the mistress of the greatest Saint Lady Temple shook her head, and there was a trace of fear on her face. It wasn't him. Huh? Suyu was surprised. Apart from Nitian Hanxing, who else would set up an ambush for the wizard tribe? It was Yongye Chioma. A huge hole suddenly appeared in front of Suyu, and a low voice came from it. It was him, the Yongye ancestor who cheated the epic-making dragon's dragon pearl. Why did he attack the wizard tribe? Suyu was puzzled. The epic-making dragon said, because I am his target. Oh, Suyu's eyes flickered with thought. After a while, he said, could it be that something happened while he was refining the dragon pearl, and he needed your help? The hole was silent, and in the silence, there was a suppressed rage. It said in a low voice, yes, the dragon pearl has been successfully refined. Suyu sucked in a breath of cold air. Before refining it, Yongye Chioma already had the power of a level 1 deity. If he refined the dragon pearl, then he wanted to absorb the power of the epic-making dragon in the dragon pearl, but he didn't activate the dragon pearl seal, so he came to ask for it, the epic-making dragon said. Suyu chuckled. He couldn't have thought that you would hand over the dragon pearl seal for the wizard tribe, could he? The epic-making dragon was a heartless creature by nature, and he would never sacrifice himself for someone as insignificant as the wizard tribe. Of course not, the epic-making dragon said. His purpose in ambushing the wizard tribe was to search their memories and analyze the weakness of the dragon scale enchantment so that he could break it from the outside. Huh? Suyu's eyes turned cold. No matter how strong a defense was, there would be a weakness, and the dragon scale enchantment was no exception. Then, who was captured? Suyu glanced at the people of the wizard tribe. They were all silent, and their faces were full of shame. The epic-making dragon sighed softly. The most troublesome one. Suddenly, Suyu's heart skipped a beat. Could it be the Moonwatch sect master? If the mistress of the greatest Saint Lady Temple could escape, why was he the only one captured? The mistress of the greatest Saint Lady Temple looked ashamed. The sect master was captured to protect us. If it was him, it would be troublesome. In terms of understanding of the forbidden land of 10,000 demons, who could be more knowledgeable than the sect master, who had mastered many secrets of the wizard tribe? The wizard tribe had never stopped exploring the forbidden land of 10,000 demons. It has been 2 months. If they have really analyzed the weakness, it should be about time, right? So you said, the mistress of the greatest Saint Lady Temple smiled bitterly. They have it for a long time. For the past month, they have been testing it every day, and they have almost confirmed it. The void exuded a deep sense of hostility. Come on, let that ungrateful thing come to me. I will smash him into ashes. It would be you who would be reduced to ashes, wouldn't it? One was sealed, and his cultivation was only level 2. The other had the dragon pearl, and his cultivation had reached level 1. If the heaven-defying Chioma really broke through the dragon scale enchantment, the epic-making dragon would be the one to die. Coincidentally, as if in response to the words of the epic-making dragon, the dragon scale enchantment suddenly changed color, emitting bursts of fiery red. When the mistress of the greatest Saint Lady Temple saw this, her face overflowed with anger. It's them. They're here again. However, unlike the past, where they would leave as soon as they explored, the dragon scale enchantment continued to change. It was as if the enchantment was being burned by a ball of raging fire, turning fiery red. This is an official attack. The epic-making dragon took a deep breath and exuded a tyrannical aura. Hide in the void spaces. They are looking for me. The enemy was powerful, especially the terror of the heaven-defying Chioma. They had witnessed it with their own eyes. It was not a level that could be resisted by numbers alone. After a moment of hesitation, they reluctantly hid in the void spaces of various sizes. Only Suyu had no intention of retreating. Suyu, you should step back too, the epic-making dragon said as he stared at the dragon scales that were about to melt. Suyu said, although my strength is average, I can still help you deal with it. The epic-making dragon shook his head. No, although your strength is not bad. You are as vulnerable as a floating cloud in front of the heaven-defying Chioma. If you die here, no one will be able to avenge me. The epic-making dragon raised his head and sighed. Perhaps this is my fate. I can't wait for you to help me retrieve the dragon pearl. However, please continue to keep your promise. Slay the heaven-defying Chioma and avenge me. At the end of his speech, his tone was bleak, sorrowful, and filled with boundless sorrow. He stared at Suyu and said with some exhaustion, step back, but remember to avenge me. As soon as he finished speaking, a gust of space energy swept out and sucked Suyu into a void space. Moreover, the epic-making dragon's strength was added to it, sealing him within and preventing him from leaving. At the same time, Suyu's scent was concealed. When he was done, the epic-making dragon roared in grief and indignation. Heaven-defying Chioma, you little brat, get your ass in here. Crackle. Chapter 1536. The epic-making dragon groaned in pain as his dragon scales were destroyed. However, his bloodthirsty eyes became fiercer and fiercer in the dark space. Hee, the epic-making dragon, a Tao Lord, was bullied by a small lesser god like me. I don't know if it's sad or funny. As the old man spoke mockingly, a slovenly old man wearing linen clothes and his hair was tied up with straw slowly walked into the space. The old man had a wizened face, and his hair was burning like flames, which looked very creepy, especially its eyes, which were pitch black in color, resembling that of a ghost. He was Yongye Chioma, an undying being who had lived for tens of millions of years. Kiddo, if my true body wasn't sealed, I wouldn't allow you to act so presumptuously. The epic-making dragon roared when he saw his mortal enemy. Yongye Chioma smiled and said, there are no ifs in this world. The reality is, I'll take your Dragon Ball and kill you. After saying that, Yongye Chioma's flaming hair dashed out for hundreds of meters and wrapped around the giant space where the epic-making dragon was. The flames quickly filled the space of the hole, slowly burning and extinguishing it, revealing the true form of the epic-making dragon hidden within. It was an ugly and gigantic beast. How does the epic-making dragon fire taste? I learned it from your Dragon Ball, and it's especially effective against your dragon scales. Yongye Chioma sized up the strange beast and sneered. Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, a large group of people flew into the space outside the dragon scale. Among them were Yongye Juyong, the former emperor who had fled, Shimin Ingwu, Dong Huang Ying, and the others who had followed him in the Empire of Darkness. Yongye Juyong looked fearful as he looked at the giant beast in front of him. He said in surprise, "Is this the epic-making dragon, the master of the forbidden land of 10,000 demons?" Yongye Chioma chuckled and said, "What do you think? Am I ugly? I've seen his true face before, and I can't believe he's so handsome. I didn't expect that he would become so ugly after such a long time. No wonder he hid in the space and never saw the light of day. It turns out that he was too ashamed to show his face." Shameless Jr. The epic-making dragon roared in anger. It raised its giant claws and wanted to attack, but the chains on its body immediately tightened and embedded into its flesh, causing the epic-making dragon to suffer endless pain. Even so, the epic-making dragon gritted its teeth and growled, "If you hadn't taken my Dragon Ball back then, how would I be in such dire straits?" Yongye Chioma looked at the epic-making dragon, who was unable to resist, and sneered, "Epic-making dragon, if you don't want to suffer, then hand over the Dragon Pearl incantation." To be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that refining the Dragon Pearl cannot be stopped for so many years, I would have come to destroy you long ago. A sealed being like you must be a great evil. Only by getting rid of you will the Lost Nation be able to enjoy peace, Eternal Night Chioma said. The epic-making dragon was furious. When have I ever done anything to the Lost Nation? You, on the other hand, have exploited the bloodline of the descendant of the World Annihilation Emperor. Your methods are sinister and bloody. In terms of evil and evil, I am not even 1/10,000th of you. Yongye Chioma's eyes turned cold. Who told you that I have exploited the bloodline of the World Annihilation Emperor's descendant? Oh, it's him. He squinted his eyes and emitted a cold light. That Sugai ruined my plan and caused my refining speed to be greatly hindered. I only managed to refine the Dragon Pearl after delaying it for 2 years. I will settle this score with him. Didn't he stop me from extracting the bloodline of others? Fine, I will extract his bloodline and make him pay the price he deserves. The epic-making dragon sneered. You have committed atrocities, and you will get what you deserve sooner or later. Humph! These words are usually uttered by the weak. Yongye Chioma sneered. Since you don't want to tell me, don't blame me for using force. Zhuyang, let him have a taste of the sealing chains. Yongye Chioma grinned hideously. Yongye Jiang hesitated for a moment before he took out a few whip-like artifacts that he had prepared and lashed out at the chains. The chains were used to seal the epic-making dragon. They were extremely spiritual. Once they sensed that an external force was trying to break them, they would contract and punish the epic-making dragon. However, at this moment, they had become Yongye Chioma's weapon to torture the epic-making dragon. As expected, when the long whip touched the chains contracted immediately. The epic-making dragon could not help but roar in agony. Yongye Jiang felt sorry for the epic-making dragon. He had no grudge against the epic-making dragon. Yongye Jiang could not bear to torture him like this. Why should I stop? Continue, Yongye Chioma said calmly. Yongye Jiang pondered for a moment before he said to the epic-making dragon, Senior, please hand them over so that you won't have to suffer. Not only did the epic-making dragon give in, but he also grinned hideously. Go ahead and beat me. It's best if you can kill me. Then I will be free. Umph, you don't know what's good for you. Yongye Chioma's face turned pale. He snatched a long whip from the epic-making dragon and lashed it at lightning speed. Crack! With a loud noise, the chains contracted violently. Splat! The chains tightened around the epic-making dragon's body. Under the intense pressure, the epic-making dragon was badly mutilated and blood splattered everywhere. Are you going to tell me or not? Yongye Chioma continued to swing the long whip. Every time he swung it, he would let out a blood-splattering roar. Yongye Chioma was filled with hostility. A perverted, hideous smile appeared on his face. It was as if the epic-making dragon was screaming in agony. This made him even more excited, and he lashed out even more fiercely. Yongye Juyong and the others shuddered slightly. They felt uncomfortable. When they noticed Yongye Chioma's expression, they felt even more uneasy. However, it was impossible for them to get rid of Yongye Chioma. At this moment, the epic-making dragon was badly mutilated. Blood flowed all over his body, and the chains had already embedded themselves into his bones. He was about to be torn into pieces. Even so, the epic-making dragon was still unyielding. There was a mocking look in his eyes. You will never obtain the power of the epic-making dragon. So what if you try so hard to refine this Dragon Ball? In the end, it's still useless. It turned out that the epic-making dragon had held back. He had only taught Yongye the method to control the Dragon Ball's power. However, he had kept the core of the epic-making dragon's power. Yongye Chioma's expression turned cold. A hint of anxiety appeared in his eyes. The epic-making dragon's will was stronger than he had expected. If this continued, it would be useless even if he killed him. However, apart from this, was there any other way to threaten him? At this moment, Yongye Chioma suddenly realized that something was wrong. Why was there only the epic-making dragon in the barrier? He remembered that the ants of the sorcerer tribe were also hiding in this place. Yongye Chioma looked around at the holes of different sizes. He suddenly put down his whip, and his lips curled into a cruel smile. He laughed hideously. Someone as cold and heartless as you actually thought about protecting those lowly ants. The epic-making dragon's eyes flickered involuntarily when he heard that. Yongye Chioma caught the look in the epic-making dragon's eyes. The hideous smile on his face became even wider. It seemed like I've guessed correctly. There must be someone among them that you want to protect. He narrowed his eyes and gripped his whip tightly again. He said mockingly, "Let me guess. Which hole is the one you really want to protect?" Crack! He attacked without any warning. He lashed out with his whip and shattered the nearest hole. The whip was a custom-made imitation of an Emperor-based Saint artifact. It was extremely powerful, let alone Yongye Chioma himself. The hole instantly turned into ashes. The few sorcerer tribe members hiding inside let out terrified and painful screams. They turned into ashes along with the hole. The epic-making dragon was furious. "Stop! Are you afraid?" "I won't." Yongye Chioma laughed hideously. He waved his whip again, and another hole was shattered. Several sorcerer tribe members died on the spot. The epic-making dragon widened his blood-red eyes. "Stop, you bastard!" Even Yongye Juyong and the others could not stand it anymore. However, they did not dare to resist Yongye Chioma. "Ha ha ha! This is the expression I wanted to see on your face." Yongye Chioma waved his whip continuously. The holes were shattered one after another. Countless sorcerer tribe members were turned into ashes amidst their screams. Yongye Chioma laughed maniacally. The epic-making dragon could only struggle and roar. However, he was powerless. He could only watch as countless sorcerer tribe members were killed. At this moment, Yongye Chioma's whip had already destroyed all the holes within its range. Yongye Chioma smiled faintly. "You're still unwilling to tell me now. This means that I haven't harmed the person you want to protect. Then, let me guess, where exactly is he hiding?" He turned his gaze and locked onto an inconspicuous hole. It was neither too far nor too close to Yongye Chioma. Its size was neither too big nor too small. It was like a grain of sand in an ocean of sand. However, Yongye Chioma's intuition told him that inconspicuous grain of sand. He said leisurely, "This hole seems a little special. My intuition tells me that the person hiding inside is not ordinary." The epic-making dragon's pupils shrank. He said in a deep voice, "Stop. That's enough. I can tell you the Dragon Pearl seal art that you want." In the end, he chose to give up. The person hiding inside the hole was Su Yu. Yongye Chioma's lips curled into a cold smile. "Unfortunately, I'm more interested in him than the Dragon Pearl seal art." a living being that requires the protection of an epic-making dragon. What could it be? No, the epic-making dragon roared. However, Yongye Chioma had already shattered the hole. However, he still had some strength left in his hand. He only shattered the outer layer of the space, so that the living being inside would not be harmed. As expected, the space shattered, revealing a complete humanoid living being. However, when Yongye Chioma saw who it was, he was stunned at first. He then sneered and laughed loudly. So, it's the young fellow with the surname Su. I was just fretting about not being able to find him, and you actually hid him here. You can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it by chance. Epic-making dragon, I really have to thank you. The epic-making dragon stared at Yongye Chioma furiously. His eyes were filled with despair. In the end, he was still discovered. No one could avenge him. However, at that moment, Suyu stood with his hands clasped behind his back amidst the shattered pieces of space. His expression was calm as he said slowly, I have to thank you too. Thank you for letting me out. Otherwise, it would have taken me a lot of effort to break open the hole from the inside. Chapter 1537. The hollow space came from the scales of the epic-making dragon. It was easy to break it from the outside, but it was quite difficult to destroy it from the inside. Suyu spent a great deal of effort in the space, but he still couldn't shake the hollow space. He saw what was happening in the outside world, but failed no matter how hard he tried. Luckily, Yongye Chioma destroyed the hollow space in time. Oh, thank me? Ha, ha, ha. You should thank me, because I will make you wish you were dead. Yongye Chioma said with a hideous smile. Juyong, capture him. Yongye Jiang hesitated for a while, but didn't hesitate for too long. Yongye Jiang teleported over. His figure in the royal robe was like a phantom shadow. Then, 18 palm prints appeared around Suyu. Every single one of them was a real palm print, not an illusion. Palm of Eternal Night. This palm print was inherited by the royal family of Eternal Night. It was extremely powerful, and each palm print was stronger than the previous one. The palm prints overlapped each other continuously. Few people at the same level as Suyu could survive this palm print. Suyu was not afraid, and his body was filled with boundless fighting will. He was like a giant who was ready to fight against the heavens and the earth. Boundless fighting will, Suyu shouted in a low voice. After 5 years of preparation, his boundless fighting will had reached the upper realm. As soon as he used it, tens of thousands of divine weapons appeared behind him. Each of these divine weapons was formed by his body when he reached the lower realm. However, this time, there were tens of thousands of divine weapons. The tens of thousands of divine weapons dashed up to the sky and formed a dark cloud which swept across the surroundings. The 18 palm prints were confronting each other in the sky. Although the palm prints were powerful, half of the dark cloud of divine weapons were destroyed and turned into dust. However, although their bodies were destroyed, their fighting will was not extinguished. Soon, more powerful divine weapons were formed again from the dust. When the second palm print arrived, they were also destroyed. However, they were formed again with more powerful fighting will. Again and again, when the 18th palm print arrived, the fighting will of the tens of thousands of divine weapons was so powerful that it could destroy the world. The most powerful palm print was destroyed easily by the tens of thousands of divine weapons, as if it was made of mud. The divine weapons didn't lose their momentum. Instead, they destroyed Yongye Juyong with their fighting will. Yongye Juyong was shocked. He didn't expect Suyu could cultivate the boundless fighting will of the heaven-fighting divine warrior to such a high level. No wonder people said that Nitian Guyun was killed by Suyu. It seemed that all these rumors were not groundless. Brat, you're underestimating the imperial family's inheritance. Yongye Juyong shouted in a deep voice. 9 fist-sized, glowing balls that looked like 9 small suns emerged from his body. 9 suns burned the heavens. This technique was one of the 2 most powerful inheritances of the Evernight royal family, second only to the 6 laws of mind control. Only the heirs of the Empire of Darkness were qualified to cultivate it. However, Yongye Juyong was the one who had mastered this art the most. Except for his ancestor, the Yongye king, No one could compare with him. This was also the origin of his name, Yongye Juyang. As the 9 small suns revolved around Su Yu suddenly felt the temperature around him rise. Invisible flames that could be seen with the naked eye were rising and burning him. A faintly discernible shadow of a law vaguely appeared. The flames that triggered the descent of the chains of law. Su Yu smiled. With a flip of his palm, a golden bell appeared in his palm. As Su Yu threw it forward, the golden bell expanded to 100,000 feet in size. It fell from the sky and suppressed the 9 small suns. With a loud bang, the 9 small suns were trapped inside. The flames it emitted were all suppressed, and the surrounding temperature quickly dropped. Yongye Juyang's pupils contracted. The Tai East Emperor Bell? Where did you get it? As the monarch of the empire, even he did not have such a powerful emperor-based saint weapon. Su Yu stared at him with a faint smile. Do you really want to know? Or are you trying to buy time so that you can use the 6 fundamental laws of mind control? Yongye Juyang's eyebrows twitched. His hands, which were hidden behind his back, were quickly making hand signs. Upon hearing that, he immediately activated the strongest technique of the Empire of Darkness, the 6 laws of mind control. He clenched his fist, and the Tai East Emperor Bell trembled uncontrollably as if it were flying toward Yongye Juyang. This was the most feared inherited skill of the Empire of Darkness, the 6 laws of mind control. However, it was rumored that Yongye Juyang had never practiced this technique. Even when Yongye Juyang fought against Nitian Gyun for the remains of the Ice and Fire Divine Warrior, he did not use it. But now, not only was he able to execute it, his strength was also extremely strong, reaching the level of middle part initial mastery. Apparently, Yongye Juyang had practiced this technique for many years. However, Yongye Juyang had been pretending to be weak all this time and didn't want anyone to know that he had practiced this technique. The depth of his forbearance could be seen from this. Are you surprised? Yongye Juyang said with a confident smile. I plan to give Nitian Gyun a surprise by stealing the Sacred Sky warship that he was crafting. I didn't expect he would leave before the final battle with me. What was even more unexpected was that I would be getting the 23rd ranked Tai East Emperor Bell. This is beyond my expectation, Yongye Juyang said delightedly. All of a sudden, Yongye Juyang changed his expression and clenched his fist again. This was because his Tai Eastern Emperor Bell had actually stopped trembling, as if it was being controlled by another force. After several attempts, Yongye Juyang found the 6 laws of mind control couldn't harm the Tai East Emperor Bell at all. Then he stared at Su Yu's hands behind his back and said in surprise, Su Yu looked calm. Then he showed his hands, which were making hand signs to perform the 6 laws of mind control. Then, the Tai East Emperor Bell flew back to Su Yu's hand. As I expected, Yongye Juyang couldn't believe his eyes. I didn't expect you would reach the upper class of the middle part. Who gave you the middle part? He had only given Su Yu the contents of the first part. Suddenly, Yongye Juyang thought of something. Then, his face darkened. Was it the 2 unfilial sons and daughters? Su Yu said calmly. They just didn't want to be your accomplices. After saying that, Su Yu's eyes turned cold. Then, he took out a chain and slashed it at the void behind him. Clang! With the sound of metal clashing, a figure holding a khaki-colored longsword fell out of the void, caught off guard. His figure was a little embarrassed. What a sharp sense. The figure was a little surprised. Yongye Juyang looked at him and said, Father, why did you attack him? It was a fight between him and Su Yu. As a senior, Yongye Chioma attacked him sneakily from behind and was exposed. Yongye Chioma scolded coldly. You piece of trash. Step back. You are weaker than a young man. In fact, Yongye Chioma was more surprised than Su Yu. He had been paying attention to Su Yu from the very beginning. Over the past 7 or 8 years, Su Yu's cultivation had improved tremendously. Now that he had returned after missing for 2 years, he had acquired many magical powers and heavenly treasures. Yongye Juyang stepped back in embarrassment. He looked at Su Yu with a complicated expression in his eyes. Young man, I admit that I have underestimated you. I didn't expect you could defeat a level 2 deity. You have improved so fast that even I am impressed, Yongye Chioma said in a hoarse voice. He squinted his eyes and said with a faint smile, "If you were given more time, I believe you could surpass level 2 and reach my current level. It's a pity that you won't have a chance." Yellow Heaven Sword. Yongye Chioma swung the long yellow sword at Suyu. Suyu was shocked. He didn't dare to underestimate the swordsmanship of a level 1 deity. While protecting himself with the chain, Suyu took out the Tai East Emperor bell again. A series of sparks appeared on the chain. Then, it was swept away by the mighty power of the long sword. The sword was unstoppable and hit the Tai East Emperor bell directly. Ripples appeared on the surface of the Tai East Emperor bell. It was almost pierced through. Suyu was shocked. Even the giant of the Bitter Sea couldn't reach this level. They were both level 1 deities, but Nitian Shioma was much more powerful. Humph! Do you think you will be safe if you hide behind the Emperor-based Saint Artifact? Nitian Shioma sneered. Suyu was alarmed. Without saying a word, a gigantic Tai Chi pattern appeared under his feet. Almost at this moment, the long sword in Nitian Shioma's hand changed into a crystal ball. It contained an intense aura of the Dragon Clan. It contained an extremely horrifying dragon power. Suyu's heart skipped a beat when he sensed the power. Needless to say, Suyu could guess what it was. It was the Dragon Ball of the epic-making dragon power. With the Dragon Ball in his hand, Nitian Shioma's body changed subtly. 2 pitch-black dragon horns grew on his head. Silver scales appeared all over his body. His pupils were yellowish, which was unique to the Dragon Clan. The hand that held the Dragon Ball had the most unique change. It was almost the same as the giant claw of the epic-making dragon. It was huge, sharp, and contained powerful dragon power. Seeing this, the epic-making dragon was furious and shocked. "Suyu, be careful. He has refined the Dragon Ball and can mobilize 1/10,000th of the dragon power in the Dragon Ball." He did not continue, but Suyu could imagine how terrifying 1/10,000th of the dragon power of the epic-making dragon was at its peak would be. This palm strike could at least reach the level of a Star River Overlord. A mere Emperor-based Saint Artifact, ranked 23rd, couldn't possibly block it. At this critical moment, Suyu spread his fingers. Cosmos Sword Formation. Swoosh! Swoosh! Suddenly, a silver light flashed behind him, and 9 straight, sharp, silver-black feathers appeared. However, upon closer inspection, they were not feathers at all. They were 9 long swords that were stuck upside down on Suyu's back. They looked like feathers. The 9 feathers immediately shot up into the sky and spun rapidly around Suyu. Because of the rapid rotation, the shadows left by the 9 swords connected into a line, forming a clear arc around Suyu. The arc circled around Suyu as if some strange object had been attached to him. A wave of shocking sword energy rippled out slowly. It was like a mighty force that could split the heavens and the earth, filled with a terrifying will that could destroy the wilderness and shatter the chaos. The expression of Yongye Chioma, who was about to strike, changed completely. He had experienced this feeling not long ago when he was refining the Dragon Ball. At that time, he was very far away, and the feeling was very vague. However, he was sure that it was the inherited sword technique of the Demon Sword Divine Warrior, the Cosmos Sword Formation. The fear and trepidation he experienced at that time almost caused his refinement to be interrupted, still lingered in his heart. He had been guessing that the descendant of the Demon Sword Divine Warrior had been born. However, he had never expected that the so-called descendant of the Demon Sword Divine Warrior was none other than Suyu, whom he was about to deal with. A fear that came from the depths of his soul caused Yongye Chioma's entire body to tremble. As he stared at the dark silver arc, Yongye Chioma felt like he was about to be destroyed. His heart thumped wildly. Swish! After a brief moment of consideration, Yongye Chioma chose to flee without hesitation. A level 1 deity could travel hundreds of millions of miles with a single thought. However, he did not expect Su Yu's figure to follow him like a shadow, still above his head. Chapter 1538. Su Yu put his palms together and said calmly, "When the epic-making dragon begged you to stop, Did you show any mercy? If so, what makes you think you're qualified to beg for mercy? After saying that, Suyu rotated his fingers. The silvery black arc flickered violently. The destructive power was about to explode. Yongye Chioma was running away in fear. However, Suyu was still standing on his head like a ghost. At this moment, the Cosmos Sword formation was activated. The silvery black arc was like the first ray of light in this dark and chaotic world. It separated the sky from the earth, cut off the night from the day, and isolated the yin from the yang. Everything was wiped out by the silvery light. The entire Lost Nation could clearly feel a mighty force that could split the heavens and earth apart, traversing the space-time of the Lost Nation. They also sensed that a silver light had swept across the entire Lost Nation. There was no destruction or screams, because even the sound had been destroyed. The aura of Yongye Chioma had been erased from this world. Only endless ruins were left. 1/10 of the Blackwood Forest had been razed to the ground. Within a radius of 10 trillion kilometers, not even a blade of grass could be seen. When the silvery light disappeared, the world became peaceful again. To be exact, it was dead silent. The 9 swords returned to Suyu's back like feathers. Suyu looked very tired. His divine strength, physical strength, and soul strength had almost been used up. Suyu flew down slowly and sat on the ground with his legs crossed to recover. However, it was too late. Along with several air-rending noises, Yongye Jiang led a group of people to approach Suyu cautiously. Sensing the terrifying power lingering in the air and gazing at the endless destruction, they could only feel their hearts beating wildly. When they sensed Suyu's existence, they sensed Suyu's weakness. However, they didn't dare to approach him. After a long time, Yongye Jiang gritted his teeth and flew down. When he saw the 9 swords on Suyu's back, his eyelids couldn't help but twitch. Shangguan Feiyu, Dong Wang Ying, and Shimin Ingwu flew down one after another. Then, they surrounded Suyu and trapped him in the center. Shimin Ingwu's eyes were filled with jealousy. In the past, they had stood at the same starting line, but 10 years had passed. Although she had made rapid progress, compared to Suyu, her so-called progress was negligible. Seeing that Suyu was like an arrow at the end of its flight, she could not help but have evil thoughts. She stared at him and said, "King, he seems to be unable to move." With Dong Huang Ying's eyes gleamed with a cold divine light. That Tai Eastern Emperor Bell is an Emperor Path saint weapon of our ancestor, the Eastern Emperor Tai. Is Sovereign King willing to seek justice for our Eastern royal clan and retrieve that lost inheritance treasure? Well, wall is down, everyone will give it a shove. Especially after the existence that they used to look up to in the past had collapsed. They even had the thought of stepping on it. It was to the extent that he even wanted to lay his hands on the magical treasure that Suyu always carried with him. Shangguan Feiyu's eyes were filled with pity. He and Suyu were somewhat related, but the King of Eternal Darkness would not let Suyu off. Whether it was the dead of the past or the hatred of today, everyone fixed their eyes on Yongye Jiang. Even though Suyu was seriously injured, only Yongye Jiang was confident that he could kill him. Yongye Jiang's eyes changed several times. Finally, he made up his mind. Then he stepped forward. His divine strength gushed out and swept toward Suyu. Shimin Ingwu was a bit excited. Shangguan Feiyu sighed silently and closed his eyes to feel sorry for Suyu. A sovereign like Suyu was killed just like that. The epic-making dragon, who was far away, sensed Suyu's attack and roared angrily. The dragon roar echoed for a long time. However, it could not stop Yongye Jiang's attack. Nobody could save Suyu. However, unexpectedly, the divine strength that was sweeping towards Suyu slowed down suddenly. Then, it turned into a strand of pure divine strength and gushed into Suyu's body to speed up his recovery. Shangguan Feiyu was stunned. Then, he looked at Yongye Jiang in surprise. Shimin Ingwu and Dong Wang Ying were also stunned. Shimin Ingwu said in surprise, "Sovereign King, what happened?" Yongye Jiang stood there with his hands clasped behind his back. Then, he asked as he stared at Suyu, "How are Chushue and Wong?" Suyu looked at him calmly and said, "They will surpass you soon." Hearing this, Yongye felt relieved as he stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Good, good. I have so many sons and daughters. However, they are the most outstanding ones." "That's good." Although he was smiling, Yongye could see his loneliness. His two most outstanding children, however, were running in the opposite direction from him, as though they were strangers. Tell them that when they get married and start their own businesses, don't follow their father's example. Don't destroy their families and their country, Yongye said as he flew up into the sky. Shangwan Feiyu was surprised for a long time. Then, he smiled and followed Yongye. Shimin Wu was unwilling to give up. After catching up with Yongye, she said, "Sovereign King, why don't you take this opportunity to kill him? He is a wanted criminal of the 4 empires. Also, he killed the old great emperor of Yongye. If you let him go, will you let him go?" Dong Wang Ying's eyes flickered as he said, "He stole the secret inheritance of the Yongye royal family and the great treasure of our Eastern royal family. How can we let him go?" Hearing they were dissatisfied, Yongye turned around and said calmly, "Enemy? Who is our enemy? It is the prophecy about the catastrophe that has been passed down from generation to generation. The world will collapse, the evil woman will be born, the world will be in chaos, and the common people will cry. I know the old great emperor is not a good person. However, I still follow him. Why? Because he is the most powerful being in the God realm. He is the only one who can defeat the prophecy," Yongye said. "Now, there is someone who is much more powerful than the old great emperor. If we kill him while he is seriously injured, we will be putting the cart before the horse." Shimin Wu had always been arrogant. If Yongye Wuheng was killed, she could tolerate him because he always stood above her. However, Su Yu, who came later than her, was not someone she could tolerate. Dong Wang Ying continued, "What about the lost emperor-based saint artifact of our Eastern royal family? Are we going to let an outsider take control of it?" Yongye looked at him and said, "This artifact has been lost for billions of years. I don't know how many people have owned it. The Eastern royal family is just one of them. How could the Eastern royal family have an emperor-based saint artifact? As far as I know, the Tai Eastern royal bell was stolen by your ancestors from other creatures, right?" After a long silence, Dong Wang nodded his head and said, "Your Majesty, you are right." Yongye said, "If you don't mind, let's go back to the Empire of Darkness. The old great emperor left something behind, which will help us to defeat the prophecy." The others nodded their heads and started to leave. However, not long after they left, Shimin Wu and Dong Wang Ying found an excuse to leave the team and never came back. Shangwan Feiyu said, "Your Majesty, why didn't you stop them? You knew they were going to harm Su Yu." He was quite curious why Yongye agreed to leave the team when the two of them asked the emperor for permission. Even Shangwan Feiyu could tell the two of them were still thinking about Su Yu, who was seriously injured. Yongye sighed slightly. "If they want to die, let them be. I have done my best." "Your Majesty, do you mean—" Shangwan Feiyu raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise, "Su Yu is still able to fight?" Yongye said seriously, "He is more than able to fight. Even if he wanted to kill me, it would be as easy as blowing off dust. I should be thankful that he didn't kill us and let us live." "What?" Shangwan Feiyu was shocked. How could Su Yu still have the power to kill a level 2 deity when he was seriously injured? If Yongye didn't say this, he wouldn't believe it. The look in Yongye eyes deepened. "Otherwise, why do you think I changed my attack to help him recover?" "Because I sensed a destructive force which was almost as powerful as the Cosmos Sword formation was brewing. I am afraid I will be killed before I can hurt him." Shangwan Feiyu understood why Yongye changed his mind. It turned out Yongye changed his attitude because he sensed Su Yu was in danger. After a pause, Shangwan Feiyu said hesitantly, "Your Majesty, what you said about Princess Chushue and Prince Wuheng is also, Su Yu is a loyal person, so it was not a secret." Yongye words were exactly what he wanted to hear. After a while, Yongye said, "Half true, half false." Shangwan Feiyu said after a pause. Then, we don't have to wait for them to come back. I don't think they will come back. Let's go. Yongye Jiuyang nodded his head. Then, he flew away with the others. At this critical moment, Suyu glanced at the direction where Yongye Jiuyang left. Then he took back the replica world annihilation plate in his sleeve. If Yongye Jiuyang didn't know what was good for him, Suyu wouldn't mind killing him. Suyu calmed down and started to cultivate. Then, he thought to himself, the Cosmos Sword formation is indeed powerful. However, it consumes a lot of energy every time I use it. I'd better not use it until the last moment. However, it was worth it to kill Yongye Chioma. Suyu was shocked when he thought of Yongye Chioma's half-dragon form. If it weren't for the Cosmos Sword formation, the consequences would be unimaginable. At this moment, a figure dashed over. It was Shimin Ingwu who had come back. She saw Suyu was still sitting with his legs crossed. She didn't show up until now. Swish! With a burst of sharp sword energy, Shimin Ingwu landed 1,000 feet away from Suyu. Holding the long sword in her right hand, she looked at Suyu up and down. Then, she said with an elegant smile, Hee, Suyu, you are the commander of the Lost Nation. Now, you can kill a level 1 deity with a single sword attack. I didn't expect the talented young man I met in the Empire of Darkness would become so powerful that I have to look up to him. Suyu looked at her calmly. Did you come back just to catch up? As far as I remember, we didn't know each other very well. They didn't even say a word to each other. Catch up? Of course not. I want to make a deal with you. Shimin Ingwu said with a faint smile. Suyu shook his head. I don't think I need to make a deal with you. You need it. Shimin Ingwu smiled coldly. I will spare your life in exchange for your lifetime's training resources, insights, techniques, and everything else. What jealousy? What envy? After all, it was just Shimin Ingwu's excuse. There was only one real reason for her to come back, and that was the secret of Suyu's rapid rise. Suyu stared at her and said calmly, If I were you, I would leave immediately. Shimin Ingwu said confidently, Don't put on an act. If you really had the power to resist, you wouldn't have wasted your breath on a nobody like me, right? Suyu's eyes were cold as he shook his head. Shimin Ingwu swept her long sword across, her beautiful eyes cold. I think you need to be like the epic-making dragon. You have to endure the torture of death before you are willing to speak. Chapter 1539. After he finished speaking, he abruptly thrust his long sword toward the 9-jade spiritual pearl. His eyes were filled with madness and morbidity similar to Yongye Chioma's. I'll kill a living being in a cave abode first. Let's see if you'll talk or not. Suyu slowly closed his eyes and let out a soft sigh. The replica of the world annihilation plate, which he had already put away, fell down silently. When it was enlarged in the air, it covered the sky and covered the sun. It was a magnificent sight. Then, a world devastator cannon swept across with a blinding beam of light. With a soft clang, a broken sword lay alone on the ground. The owner of the broken sword was nowhere to be found, and even his aura had disappeared from the world. At that moment, Suyu muttered to himself, I'm willing to waste my breath on you not because I have a guilty conscience, but because I don't want another profit-driven person to die in my hands. Then, Suyu looked at the horizon and said indifferently, Who allowed you to leave? Come here. At the foot of the mountain range on the horizon, a young man who had burrowed into the ground emerged, drenched in cold sweat. He flew towards Suyu with a face full of apprehension and fear. Suyu sized him up and said coldly, You're really cunning. You let Shimin Ingwu test the waters, while you waited for an opportunity to strike from behind. Dong Wang Ying's entire body stiffened as his countenance turned black. Despair filled his heart as his lips trembled. I didn't. Waving his hand, Suyu was too lazy to argue with such a small fry. Let me ask you, is the Moonwatch sect master still alive? Yongye Chioma was the one who had searched his soul. Even if he didn't die, he would be in a miserable state. Dong Wang Ying nodded like a little chick pecking at grains. He's alive, he's still alive. He's trapped in the cavern world of the Sand Continent. Suyu nodded. Bring me to him, and I'll spare your life. Upon hearing this, Dong Wang felt as though she was saved from death's door. She knelt down in gratitude. After keeping Dong Wang, Su Yu returned to the forbidden land of 10,000 demons. After Yongye Chioma's destruction, the forbidden land of 10,000 demons was in a mess. Most of the holes in the space had shattered, and many of the shaman tribe's clansmen were either dead or injured. The one who suffered the most was the epic-making dragon. His skin was lacerated, and there was not a single part of his body that was unscathed. He lay on the ground, on the verge of death, and blood flowed endlessly. Su Yu landed in front of her and sighed with emotion. He then asked, "How can I help you?" There was a seal on his body, and if Su Yu tried to attack him, the seal would be activated, and he wouldn't be able to recover from it. The epic-making dragon reluctantly opened his eyes and said, "It's fine as long as we find the Dragon Balls." The Dragon Pearl. Su Yu looked apologetic. "I'm afraid the Dragon Pearl has been destroyed in the Cosmos Sword Formation just now." However, the epic-making dragon said seriously, "Even if the Demon Sword Emperor is reborn, he can't destroy the Dragon Ball." Su Yu understood the underlying meaning, and his expression gradually turned grave. "The aura of the Dragon Pearl disappeared because I once taught Yongye Chioma a mystical ability that came with the Dragon Pearl, the Dragon Shedding Shell technique. In times of danger, he can instantly teleport to another safe location at the cost of serious injuries." Hearing this, Su Yu's face darkened. The Dragon Pearl had disappeared, and so had the Yongye Chioma. In other words, he was not dead, but had teleported to another place with heavy injuries. "How long can you last?" Su Yu's eyes were filled with killing intent as he asked. The Creator Dragon replied, "Until you return." "All right." Su Yu nodded deeply, his eyes filled with determination. "I will bring back the Dragon Pearl as soon as possible." After that, Su Yu recuperated on the spot. After exchanging greetings with the mistress of the greatest Saint Lady Temple and the others, he immediately set off for the Sand Continent to rescue the Moonwatch sect leader. What he did not know was that after he left, the epic-making dragon had a cunning look in his eyes. "Haha, you've grown much faster than I imagined. It seems like there's still a chance for me to leave this place." The Sand Continent was located in a strange sand region in the Blackwood Forest. The place stretched on endlessly. In a vast Blackwood Forest, this barren sand region was rather peculiar. Under Dong Wang Ying's guidance, Su Yu came before an extremely ordinary grain of sand. Even without Dong Wang Ying's introduction, Su Yu could tell that this was a cavern world with a casual glance. "Wait here. If I find the Moonwatch sect leader dead, humph." Dong Wang Ying hurriedly said, "No, he's alive and well." Su Yu glared at him and entered the cavern world. After scanning this cavern world with his powerful background, Su Yu was a little surprised to find that many people in this world were important civil and military officials of the former Empire of Darkness, as well as local dignitaries. Among them, Grand Tutor Yuan, a civil official, impressed Su Yu the most. He did not expect Yongye Jiang would still keep such a useless civil official after the calamity of the Empire of Darkness. With a little curiosity, Su Yu found Grand Tutor Yuan was instructing some people to tidy up all kinds of scrolls. The scrolls were tightly sealed. It seemed the contents of the scrolls were very important. The Empire of Darkness has fallen so far, but a group of fallen officials are still busy tidying up documents. Su Yu vaguely felt something was wrong. However, he had no time to pay attention to it. Su Yu continued to scan the scrolls. As expected, he found the aura of the Moonwatch sect leader. He was indeed alive, but his condition. In the cavern world, on a dark hill, there was a group of slaves in ragged clothes with chains on their feet. They were holding special hard iron hoes and digging the hill under their feet. Su Yu did not know what material the hill was made of. When the hard hoes dug into it, they could only leave a shallow mark of a few inches. At the same time, a series of sparks would appear. Among the group of beggars, there was a man with an extraordinary temperament who could not hide his miserable appearance. He was also forced to do manual labor. In addition to the chains on his feet, a soul-stabilizing wood was nailed deep into his head between his eyebrows. Su Yu's expression softened a little. Then, he teleported to the front of the man. Seeing Su Yu's arrival, The man with the extraordinary temperament looked as usual and did not panic at all. However, when he saw Suyu, his expression gradually changed. He said in a low voice, "Why are you here? Go quickly. It turns out that a peerless expert has been hiding in the Empire of Darkness. While he is away, you should leave immediately." Suyu said, "Rest assured, Moonwatch sect leader. He will not come back for the time being. I am here to save you." Seeing Suyu's determination, the Moonwatch sect leader asked doubtfully, "So, you have been to the forbidden land of 10,000 demons?" Suyu nodded and removed the soul-stabilizing wood from between his eyebrows. Without it, the sorcery energy in the Moonwatch sect leader's body started flowing again. The Moonwatch sect leader was delighted. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you very much. This is a seal set by Yongye Choma himself. I can't remove it by myself. I need external help." Suyu said, "Let's not talk about this. Let's leave first." "Wait," the Moonwatch sect leader said. Suyu was puzzled. "Sect leader, do you still have something to do?" The Moonwatch sect leader shook his head and said, "No. After I was captured, I found out that something very special was going on in this cavern world." "Oh," Suyu was surprised. Anything that could make the Moonwatch sect leader feel special was definitely not ordinary. "I found out that they seem to be digging up some ancient object." "Ancient object?" Suyu raised his eyebrows slightly. He suddenly remembered the large amount of information that Grand Tutor Yuan had ordered people to sort out. Could it be the analysis of ancient objects? Ancient object? Where? Suyu asked after thinking for a while. The Moonwatch sect leader smiled without saying a word. Suyu was stunned, but he quickly reacted. He looked at the dark hill under his feet. "Is this it?" "Yes. I don't know where Yongye Choma found it, but he ordered people to dig it up day and night." Suyu tried to use the earthly dragon beast. The earthly dragon beast was best at digging into the ground. Its sharp beak was specially designed for this purpose. However, the beak of the earthly dragon beast could only drill a few inches into the dark hill. It cannot go any deeper. If it forced its way down, it would only create a series of sparks. Suyu was slightly surprised, and his interest was piqued. After thinking for a while, he took out the long sword of golden flames forbidden wood that had been forged for 5,000 years. At this moment, the long sword was so sharp that even a level 2 deity would not be able to resist it. As a wizard, the Moonwatch sect leader's physical body was even more difficult to resist. He felt the danger and could not help but look surprised. "This is a very dangerous long sword." Suyu smiled. His eyes focused, and the long sword slashed down fiercely. However, it only pierced a foot into the hill and could not go any deeper. When he pulled out the long sword of golden flames forbidden wood, he saw that the long sword was stained with a trace of colorful liquid. "What is this?" Suyu was slightly surprised. The more he looked at it, the more familiar it seemed. Suddenly, Suyu thought of something, and his pupils constricted. The Moonwatch sect leader touched it subconsciously, but was quickly stopped by Suyu. He said, "Stop, don't touch it. It is very dangerous." This colorful liquid was very similar to the blood of the ancient god Jiolong. They were both filled with great power, but the difference was that the blood of the ancient god Jiolong was colorful. Now it was purple and black divine blood. The Moonwatch sect leader stared at the liquid and said, "Do you know the origin of this thing?" Suyu did not speak. He summoned the 9 long swords of golden flames forbidden wood, and they revolved around the dark hill like a gust of wind, sweeping away the 3-inch surface of the hill. In this way, the thing inside the hill was revealed. Standing in the distance, the Moonwatch sect leader was surprised. It is the head of a living creature. It was a head that was dozens of feet high. It was pitch black, with 2 huge fangs at the corners of its mouth and countless small teeth. At first glance, one could tell that it was a ferocious creature. The 3-inch surface of the head was actually just dust that had adhered to it over the years. Just as I expected, Suyu's eyes were filled with excitement. It probably confirms what I have in mind, but further verification is needed. With a roll of his big sleeves, Suyu took the head away and teleported away with the Moonwatch sect leader. 2 days later, in Shung capital, in the former mansion of the Wang clan, The underground of the mansion was a forbidden area of the Wong clan. There was a spiritual pool filled with rich heavenly fire, which could be condensed into a pool every 10 years. Last time, Suyu had the opportunity to train here and purify his soul. Now that he was back, Suyu stared at the huge rock under his feet with anticipation. As he opened his 5 fingers, the 9 swords of golden flames forbidden wood rotated and swept around, constantly cutting the huge rock under his feet. At first, the Moonwatch sect leader did not understand Suyu's intention. However, as the huge rock was constantly cut, pieces of strange bones were revealed, and he was shocked. After a full hour, all the surrounding rocks were cleaned up, revealing an object that had been embedded in the rock for countless years. It was a scarlet head. The face of this head was equally ferocious. Even though it had been dead for a long time, its ferocious aura still remained. Especially when he looked into the pair of black hollow eyes, he shuddered even more. After digging out 2 strange heads in a row, the Moonwatch sect leader was shocked. What is going on here? Suyu's eyes shone with a profound light. He took a deep breath and said, I think I know what the Lost Nation is. In the morning, he was asked to go on a business trip after writing 1 chapter. He did not return until 6 o'clock in the evening. He hurriedly wrote 2 more chapters to make up for 3. Chapter 1540. The Moonwatch sect leader was stunned. The Lost Nation was the place where the wizard tribe had lived for generations. What other special significance did it have? Let's go somewhere else. Suyu rolled up his sleeves and took the skeleton away. They came to a spacious flat ground. Staring at the scarlet skull, Suyu clearly remembered that the black invitation in his hand had emerged from the skull along with the heavenly fire. If that was the case, then inside the black skull, Suyu held a golden flames forbidden wood sword in each of his palms and cut it with his supreme sharpness. As expected, the golden flames forbidden wood sword could not do anything to the skull. Instead, the body of the sword showed signs of damage. So he stopped in time. After thinking about it, he touched the prayer beads on his wrist. Little Icefire was still asleep. It was all thanks to Little Icefire that the scarlet head had been broken. Since it was asleep, he could only ask for help from the troublesome little girl. Come out. Suyu's arm flashed with green light, and a little girl in colorful clothes emerged. She was holding a piece of aged, heavenly orchid silver bamboo in her hands and was chewing happily on the ground. While humming an unknown tune, her buttocks were shaking. Sensing the changes in the outside world, she raised her eyebrows and looked around. When she saw Suyu, she jumped up as if she had seen an enemy from a lifetime ago. At the same time, she rushed over with her claws and teeth and said fiercely, Liar! Damn liar! What happened to the 2 drops of divine blood? I was beaten until I vomited blood, and you didn't fulfill your promise. Suyu said, I was too busy before and had no time to leave. After saying that, he quickly shot out a jade bottle. It was so fast that before the Moonwatch sect leader could sense what it was, he was held in Little Butterfly's arms. Her little face, which had been fierce just a moment ago, was beaming with joy in the blink of an eye. She was grinning from ear to ear. The Moonwatch sect leader looked at the weird girl in surprise. For some reason, he vaguely felt that this girl gave him a very uneasy feeling. This feeling was only felt when he was facing Yonya Chioma. Little Butterfly, I let you out. In addition to fulfilling my promise, I also gave you some delicious food. Suyu pointed at the black head, which he was helpless against, and calmly said, That's the compensation I've come all the way here for you. Xiao Dai's gaze swept over, and her eyes lit up. The same aura as the liquid in the bottle. It's just that it's much weaker. But I feel like there's something special inside. Little Butterfly's eyes lit up. She put away the jade bottle, licked her lips, and pounced on the head. 2 tender little hands hugged his head tightly, and his whole body stuck to it. At first glance, it looked like a small gecko on the wall. But it was precisely this little gecko that opened its mouth and bit down fiercely, making a cracking sound. One could see with the naked eye that the indestructible skull had a crack and a bite mark on it. The Moonwatch sect master gasped, and his whole body was covered with cold air. He cried out involuntarily, What? What kind of creature is she? He had experienced the toughness of the pitch-black skull. No divine weapon could break it. Even someone as powerful as Yongye Chioma had tried to penetrate the skull, but he had not succeeded. But the little girl in front of him, with her terrifying teeth, the Moonwatch sect master could not help but take a few steps back in fear. Xiao Dai scratched her head in dissatisfaction. So hard? I want to bite through it. Munch, munch, munch. Xiao Dai continued to bite. Finally, a crisp sound, like an eggshell cracking, fell into Su Yu's ears. In the pitch-black skull, a hole the size of a finger had been bitten. Xiao Dai's face lit up with joy. She bit along the hole, expanding it until it was as wide as a person. Ha ha ha, I smell something delicious. Xiao Dai wiped the sweat from her forehead and went in excitedly. Unexpectedly, when half of his body went in, his legs were grabbed by someone and slowly pulled out. Xiao Dai looked back and said unhappily, "Why are you pulling me?" Su Yu smiled warmly. "You're tired. Take a rest. Leave the hardest work to me." "I'm not tired. Let go, I smell something good." Xiao Dai was impatient. Su Yu opened the 9 jade spiritual pearl, lifted her upside down, and slowly stuffed her into it. He said warmly, "You're really tired." "I'm not tired." Xiao Dai was so angry that her eyebrows were twisted. "You're tired." "I'm not tired." "I'm tired." "No, wait, you're a liar. You lied to me to open the skull." "Ah, I'm going to eat you, you damn liar." Before she could finish her words, she was thrown into the 9 jade spiritual pearl. So you could vaguely hear Xiao Dai's angry curses. Wiping the fine sweat from his forehead, Su Yu explained to the Moonwatch sect master with a smile, "The child is still young and disobedient." "Sect master, just take it as a joke." The Moonwatch sect master nodded dumbfounded. "Oh no, it's okay. Your child is very good." "Yes, so good that she wanted to eat Su Yu." Su Yu rubbed his slightly stiff cheeks and looked at the hole in the skull. With a thought, Su Yu flew into it. It was pitch black inside. Su Yu shook the golden flames forbidden with sword in his hand, and the golden light rose sharply, illuminating the inside of the skull. There was a pool of purple-black liquid inside, similar to the blood of the ancient god Jiolong. So he was excited. There was so much divine blood, much more than what the ancient god Jiolong had left behind. However, this divine blood was far inferior to the blood of the ancient god Jiolong, so Su Yu didn't feel too much pressure. Against the purple-black water vapor, Su Yu saw a dark red box floating in the liquid. The box had been soaked in the purple-black divine blood all year round, but it didn't corrode at all. Instead, it was as bright as before. "What is this?" Su Yu was surprised. He waved his hand and took the dark red box. It was as light as a feather in his hand, weightless. The strangest thing was that when the dark red box was separated from the purple-black liquid, the liquid boiled and evaporated into water vapor, which was absorbed into the dark red box. In the blink of an eye, the purple-black liquid was absorbed without a trace, leaving not a single drop behind. At the same time, several lines of small words appeared on the dark red box. "Only those who become a high-level god can open it. I will grant you a wish." As soon as the words appeared, Su Yu's palm, which was holding the red box, was slightly hot. Su Yu immediately let go of the red box and looked at it. There was a purple-black mark on his palm, which looked like the word demon. The Moonwatch sect master witnessed the whole process and was surprised. Could it be that only those who have this mark can break through to become a high-level god, can open this red box? It had been hidden in the skull for so many years by an unknown and mysterious existence. What was sealed in the red box must be extraordinary, just like the black invitation card of the Tao Abyss. No matter what, you need to at least become an existence like the divine warriors of heaven and earth to open the red box. "It is still too early now," Su Yu said. He put the red box together with the invitation card of the Tao Abyss. Then, he cleaned up the scene and put away the 2 skulls. Su Yu then told the Moonwatch sect master about the major disaster that was about to happen in the Lost Nation in the near future. Unexpectedly, the Moonwatch sect master already knew about it. He said, "No wonder the cenotaph of the wizard ancestor cracked without warning a few months ago. The cenotaph has existed since the birth of the wizard tribe. For countless years, it has been as stable as a rock and has never changed. Even the passage of time has not eroded it. Now that it's suddenly cracked, I had a bad feeling. I didn't expect it to be the evil girl who destroyed your god realm. If this is the case, once she escapes, the Lost Nation will also be destroyed. As a creature of the Lost Nation, the wizard tribe is duty-bound, the Moonwatch Sectmaster said. At the same time, he took out 10% of his essence blood and gave it to Suyu. His face immediately became much paler, and he looked quite weak. I will rush back to the wizard tribe immediately and call on the subordinates of the wizard tribe to donate their essence blood, the Moonwatch Sectmaster said. Suyu said gratefully, "If we can survive the catastrophe, it will be thanks to you, Sectmaster. We are all in the same boat. Well, there is no time to lose. I will set off immediately and meet up with the 4 great empires when the time comes." After the Moonwatch Sectmaster finished speaking, he immediately rushed to the forbidden land of 10,000 demons. Suyu's eyes flashed, and he looked in the direction of the Empire of Darkness. I wonder how the Mermaid Emperor has arranged the gathering of the 4 great empires. With a thought, Suyu instantly flew hundreds of millions of miles and went straight to the former Empire of Darkness. When passing by the Azura Forbidden Land, Suyu stopped for a moment and stared at the swirling vortex in the sky. There was a knot in his heart that he couldn't let go. Xian accidentally obtained the legacy of the second Pathmaster of Azura, the Dark Phoenix Pathmaster, and embarked on the path of Azura. He didn't know whether this was good or bad for her. After stopping for a moment, Suyu left with the wind. What he didn't know was that in the Blackwood forest below, 2 hidden figures finally revealed themselves at this moment. They looked in the direction where Suyu left with extreme fear and hatred. "Suyu, I will never let you go," a beautiful, elegant woman said. Her snow-like eyes were full of hatred. Beside her was none other than the mysterious man who had followed her for the longest time, Li Fei. When the demonic dimension was breached, Li Fei pretended to be an ordinary demon and escaped. It was him who rescued Princess Yunxia the moment the huge body of the giant of the Bitter Sea was destroyed. Otherwise, she would have died under the Cosmo Sword formation. Then the Star River opened, revealing the passage between the 2 god realms, and they just entered the Lost God realm. More coincidentally, they lingered near the Azura Forbidden Land and almost bumped into Suyu. Princess Yunxia's countless years of planning was destroyed in one day. How could she not hate him? Li Fei comforted her. "You are lucky to be able to survive from this man's hands. With this man's ruthlessness, if he finds you, he will definitely kill you." The hatred on Princess Yunxia's face did not diminish. "It doesn't matter if I die, but he has destroyed the hope of rescuing the Lord." The giant of the Bitter Sea was the hope that she had spent countless efforts on. In the end, it was completely destroyed by Suyu's sword. Even the Azura that was revealed was swept into the space-time space and disappeared. Hearing this, Li Fei shook his head and said mysteriously, "Princess, you don't have to worry too much. The Lord actually has several arrangements. The Azura messenger is only one of them. He has another arrangement, and I believe he will be able to escape." "What? There's another arrangement?" Princess Yunxia was surprised. "What is it?" Li Fei smiled bitterly. "I don't know. When the God Realm collided with the Lost Nation, it caused a huge shock. The Azura Forbidden Land shook, and the seal was loosened for a moment. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Lord set up 2 backup plans. One of them was the Azure Messenger, who knew that he was sealed by the descendants of the Demon Sword Divine Warrior. The other one is extremely mysterious, and I don't know what it is." Princess Yunxia thought hard for a moment, but she did not know. Her gloomy face gradually filled with excitement. "In that case, there is hope for the Lord to escape this time." Chapter 1541. A few days later, in the capital of the Empire of Darkness. To be precise, it should be the capital of the Taichu dynasty. Since the last change of dynasties, the monarchs of the 3 great empires came to congratulate them, and the Taichu dynasty ushered in another unprecedented event. The heaven-defying empire, the Taiching Empire, and the Ice Fire Empire were invited by the Mermaid Emperor of the Taichu dynasty to come to the capital to discuss the world's major events. The three great empires brought the royal family members, the court officials, the military generals, and the strong deities in the realm to enter the Taichu dynasty. The number of people was large, and the momentum was great. It was much more enthusiastic than the last time. The mortals did not understand the significance of this discussion, and they were muddle-headed. Only the participants knew how serious the matter they were discussing this time was. If they failed, not only the empire, but the entire lost nation would be affected, and the people would be reduced to ashes. Outside the capital on a hill, Suyu floated down and stared at the endless stream of people entering the city. Suyu thought to himself, "The Mermaid Emperor has put in a lot of effort. I guess the news of the sinful lady's birth has been spread to all the deities, unlike in the past, where only a few people knew about it. It seems that he is really diligent. If that's the case, I can't slack off either," Suyu said to himself. After thinking about it, he activated the Dragon Abyss treasure scroll, and a mysterious halo automatically appeared all over his body, containing the shadow of the Great Path rules. This was a little trick that he had discovered over the years. It could perfectly hide his identity, and even a level 1 deity would not be able to see through the halo. He did this because he was following the advice of the Mermaid Emperor to not meet Nitian Hanxing face to face, lest he arouse his rebellious intentions and turn into a demon. Nitian Hanxing, a catastrophe is upon us. I will put up with you for now. After the matter of the sinful girl is settled, I will settle the score with you. Whether you turn into a demon or not, I will kill you all the same." Suyu murmured and flew to the gate of the capital. Just as he was about to enter the gate, a shadow suddenly jumped out from a gate. The speed was extremely fast, and the shadow of the chains of the space rules flickered and shuttled freely through the crowd. Suyu was slightly surprised. Apart from him, there was also a creature who was proficient in space and could pull out the shadow of the chains of the space rules. Although it was weak and far less clear than the shadow of the chains that Suyu pulled out, it was enough for Suyu to pay attention. Unfortunately, when the swift shadow was about to bypass Suyu, it paused for a moment. Then, Suyu felt that his sleeves were empty. The Tai East Emperor bell was gone. "Steal my things?" Suyu was surprised and wanted to laugh. This was the first time someone had dared to steal his things since he came to the God Realm. With a shift of thought, Suyu stood still, but his body strangely shifted backward through the space. At the same time, he moved to the side of the swift shadow and casually pinched the latter's sleeve. Jiang was taken aback. He was the first to run, but his opponent was able to keep up with him and move so precisely to his side. After all, he was currently moving at high speed. Even a level 3 deity might not be able to achieve this. Jiang shook his wrist and secretly used his divine power to block Suyu's 2 fingers. But what shocked him was that those 2 fingers also contained the power of space. No matter how he tried to resist, the 2 fingers reached into his sleeve as if they were taking something out of his pocket. Not only did they take out a palm-sized bell, but they also took out several treasures of good quality. "Don't you dare!" Jiang yelled as he reached out to grab Suyu. But he did not expect Suyu to look at him calmly. Even though he was shielding himself from the light, his gaze still emitted a soul-stirring power. Jiang trembled, unable to resist. Then, Suyu slapped his shoulder and a wave of space power entered his body, sealing his divine power and space power. Jiang revealed his true form as he fled at high speed. It was a 3-foot-tall, skinny, dwarf-like creature. The surface of his skin was covered with thin scales, which contained a weak space power. His head looked like a rat's, and his eyes were small and intelligent, constantly moving around. The most ridiculous thing was that his nose was extremely sharp, 1.5 feet long, which was half his height. Suyu had seen many such strange creatures, but this was the first time he had seen one. "What kind of creature are you?" Suyu asked. The strange creature's eyes rolled around, and a pleading look appeared on his face. "My lord, I am from the Mutant Rat Clan. I have offended you. Please let me go." Suyu shook his head with a smile. "Soul searching is more direct." Then, He pressed his palm on the creature's head. With Su Yu's current attainments in the soul path, soul searching was a piece of cake. In an instant, Su Yu had finished soul searching. When he opened his eyes, they were filled with surprise. So, you are the descendant of the sky-reaching overlord. No wonder you are born with space power. He was indeed a rat, but not a mutant. He was a descendant of the famous sky-reaching overlord in the god realm. The sky-reaching overlord was a spiritual creature of the world, a sky-reaching rat. The sky-reaching rat was born with space power and could freely travel through many dangerous forbidden lands or places that were protected by seals. But what was truly shocking was that their noses were divine objects that were unparalleled in the divine realm. Their noses had a unique ability to identify all kinds of natural treasures, magical treasures, and spiritual techniques. Whenever there was a treasure, they could smell it, no matter how well it was hidden. When the sky-reaching overlord was just a weak rat, he relied on his nose to search for treasures everywhere. Then, he gradually grew into a supreme being of the Star River overlord level. The ugly creature in front of him was the descendant of the sky-reaching overlord in the past. I didn't expect his descendants to survive after the death of the overlord. Su Yu sighed. He didn't want to kill him. So he said, "Your ancestor was a famous divine creature of the god realm, but his descendant became a thief." The sky-reaching rat was stunned. He was surprised that Su Yu knew about the past. There was no memory of the sky-reaching overlord in his memory, so Su Yu didn't search his soul. "Don't do it again. Let's go." Su Yu waved his hand and removed the seal. Swoosh! Swoosh! Right at this moment, the flow within the city gate surged once again, and 3 auras that were not weak surged out. When he focused his gaze, he noticed that it was 2 young men that were immaculately dressed and a young woman that had a pair of bright eyes and a pink dress that fluttered in the wind. They were 2 well-dressed young men and a beautiful young woman in a pink dress. Among the crowd, their eyes searched quickly and locked on to the sky-reaching rat. Seeing that, the sky-reaching rat turned pale and ran away. The young woman raised her eyebrows and scolded, "Half Moon, you thief! How dare you run away?" Tai Chi Yin-Yang wings. A vague Tai Chi pattern appeared above the young woman's head. The yin-yang fish's eyes split into 2 and turned into wings on her back. With a flap, the young woman's figure became blurred as she instantly teleported near the sky-reaching rat. The sky-reaching rat's magical powers were spatial escape and treasure hunting, but his combat power was ordinary. After 2 rounds, he was captured by the young woman and pinned to the ground. Su Yu looked at the young woman in front of him and was slightly surprised. Tai Chi Yin-Yang wings. Such a familiar name, such a familiar technique, and it was exactly the same as the yin-yang wings of Tai Chi. She must be from the Tai Ching Empire, right? He looked at the other 2 young men. They were dark-skinned, arrogant, and had a rebellious aura. Needless to say, they must be from the heaven-defying empire. As for the other one, his body was surging with 2 opposite powers of ice and fire. He must be a member of the royal family of the Empire of Ice and Fire. Looking at the 3 people's angry faces, Su Yu found it funny. The sky-reaching rat was really audacious. Of all people, he had to provoke the royal family of the 3 great empires. "What are you laughing at?" The young woman, who was beside him, sharply caught Su Yu's strange smile and scolded him. Su Yu looked at her. She was 18 years old. When Su Yu came to the God Realm, she was only 10 years old, so she could be considered his junior. With a faint smile, Su Yu left behind his Tai East Emperor bell and took out the rest of the items. "It just so happens that he also stole something from me. Capture him. If there is anything among these items that belongs to you, please take it." The young woman's beautiful eyes immediately fixed on an ice jade hairpin. It was not very precious, but it contained the aura of the Emperor of the Tai Ching Empire. "Oh, so it's the Tai Ching Cloud Wand's personal item. I'm sorry that I didn't notice it," Su Yu said with a faint smile. The young woman's eyes were filled with joy, but she immediately became stern. "Calling my grandmother by her name? You're asking for a beating." She turned out to be a direct descendant of the Tai Ching Cloud Wand. Su Yu smiled without saying anything. In front of him, the Tai Ching Cloud Wand could only be respectful. not to mention calling her by her name. Even if he reprimanded her face, she would not dare to complain. Please return these items to your companion, Suyu said. He looked at the sky-reaching rat, who was facing imminent disaster, and said, As for him, please spare his life on account of helping you capture him. The young woman tilted her head and looked at Suyu seriously. She said, You're so strange. You hide your aura so well that I can't see through it. If she could see through it, it would be really strange. At that moment, her two companions flew over one after another and asked about the scene in front of them. The young woman explained to them, and the two young men nodded in agreement. Suyu was surprised. Nitian Gyun and Binghua Sangxing were arrogant and unreasonable people. Their juniors were actually quite reasonable and let them go so straightforwardly. However, when he thought about it carefully, they had so many descendants. There were good people and bad people, and there was no lack of good characters. The young woman put down the sky-reaching rat and kicked him angrily. Forget it, I'll let you go. If I see you again, I'll take your life. Get lost. The sky-reaching rat survived the calamity, bowed to Suyu, and disappeared. The young woman said angrily, You really don't know what's good for you. It was us who let him go, but we thank you. What kind of logic is this? Speaking of which, who are you? You're so secretive. You must have a true face that cannot be revealed. She stared at Suyu, looking like a little adult who had seen the world. Suyu couldn't help but laugh. He thought for a moment and said, Probably someone from the Mermaid Emperor's side. Hearing this, the young woman and the other two young men did not doubt him. No wonder you could stop the world's #1 thief, Half Moon. The young woman nodded in realization. The world's #1 thief? Was the sky-reaching rat a repeat offender? Suyu regretted letting him go so hastily. The young man, with a defying intent, sized Suyu up. It is said that the Mermaid Emperor is surrounded by experts. Brother, since you were able to capture Half Moon alive, you must not be an ordinary person. Do you have the guts to fight with me? Huh. The young man of the Ice and Fire Imperial family laughed. Lung Shan, when can you change your temper of wanting to challenge everyone you see? Our business has been delayed. How can we have time to learn from each other? The young woman slapped her head. I was so angry with Half Moon that I became muddle-headed. Let's go. The Heaven Immortal Tower meet is about to begin. Nitian Lung Shan looked a little regretful and said, Forget it. I'll find you next time. Haha, why next time? Brother, you must be one of the younger generation, right? The Heaven Immortal Tower is inviting outstanding talents from all over the world. Isn't he just right? Brother, why don't you come with us? You can also fulfill one of Lung Shan's wishes. The young man of the Ice and Fire Imperial family invited Suyu. Suyu smiled and refused. He was indeed one of the younger generation, but in terms of status, even the emperors couldn't compare with him. He could be said to be an ancient monster in their eyes. Wouldn't he be bullying others if he attended the meet? Chapter 1542. Brother, don't miss this meeting. The main purpose of this Heaven Immortal Tower meeting is to exchange the inherited divine techniques. The royal members of the 4 empires are no exception, the young man of the Ice and Fire Imperial family said. So he was slightly surprised. The inherited divine techniques of the royal family were inherited from the divine warriors of heaven and earth. Would they be willing to hand them over? The repercussions of this great calamity are far too great. There's an extremely high chance that all life in the divine realm will perish. Even if it is a bit better, less than 10% will survive. If we continue to hold onto our treasures, then I fear that our inheritances will be severed in this great calamity. We might as well pass on this information to the outside world. This matter has been discussed and approved by the members of the royal family. In this special period, we have to do something special. We can't care about the ban of not spreading the inheritance. Suyu was tempted. He had already obtained the remaining inheritances of the 4 dynasties from the Empire of Darkness. However, he had never come into contact with the inheritance of the heaven-defying empire, the Ice and Fire Empire, and the Tai Ching Empire. One of the inheritances was meaningful to Suyu. That was the Yin Yang Wings of Supreme Pole. As an Emperor-based Saint artifact of the former Tai Ching Divine Warrior, it could teleport hundreds of millions of miles. There must be a more powerful way to use it. As for the way to control it, it was obvious that it was most likely the Tai Ching imperial family. Who from the Tai Ching imperial family will come in person? Suyu asked. The young girl looked at him strangely and said, "Could it be that you are interested in the inherited divine techniques of the Tai Ching imperial family?" How ambitious. Unfortunately, our divine techniques are only passed down among the members of the four empires. Unless you can take out a precious technique that excites us, don't even think about it. Suyu said thoughtfully, "Could it be that you are the main representative of the Tai Ching imperial family?" The young girl stared at him and said, "If it's me, you should feel lucky." The young man from the Icefire royal clan laughed. "Brother," although Miao Yu's tone is impulsive, her words aren't wrong. This time around, the representative of the Heaven Immortal Tower of the Grand Clear Royal Clan is an outstanding talent of the current generation, Tai Ching Yunhui. She is the future successor of the Grand Clear Empire. Her personality is extremely inflexible and isn't as open-minded as us. This is especially so for the divine arts passed down by the royal clan. She isn't willing to spread them out easily. Tai Ching Yunhui? Suyu pondered. He had heard of this person's name before. He was the most outstanding heir of the Tai Ching Empire. In terms of status, he was even higher than Yongya Wuang. In the Tai Ching dynasty, its reputation was even inferior to the Tai Ching Yunyuan, and it was revered by all. She had been at the third celestial layer for a long time and was extremely powerful. Even Yongya Wuhing back then had to admit defeat. Suyu had some understanding of this person's character. He was unyielding and extremely principled. Back then, the princess of the Tai Ching dynasty was snatched away by Nitian Hanxing, and the war between the two sides was on the verge of breaking out. Later, the relationship was eased, and the Tai Ching Yunyuan sent her to participate in the peace negotiations. In the end, she refused flatly, and it was only because she was unable to acknowledge the humiliation of the Grand Qing dynasty. Because of this, she was put under house arrest for 10 years as punishment, but she never lowered her head to admit her mistake. Suyu had no idea how to convince such a stubborn person. However, it would be a pity to just ignore the method to control the Tai Chi Yin Yang wings. "All right, then I shall bask in your glory and pay my respects to all of you," Suyu said. Tai Ching Miaoyu snorted. "It's good that you know. When you get there, don't embarrass us." Suyu smiled and nodded. The group of people re-entered the city. Far behind them, the Tongtian rat, who had left long ago, returned and stared thoughtfully in the direction they left. The Heavenly Immortal Tower was now the largest restaurant in the Taichu Empire. It used to be the property of Princess Yongya Chushue of the Empire of Darkness, the Tianyu auction house. Later, the empire was destroyed and fell into the hands of the enemy. It became the property of a capable subordinate of the Mermaid Emperor and was renamed the Heavenly Immortal Tower. It gathered wine, women, and wealth, and was quite famous in the imperial city. That subordinate was the leader of the Dragon Elephant tribe, one of the 99 tribes in the southern part of the empire. He was born with amazing strength and extremely powerful martial arts. During the course of the expedition, his strength soared to level 3, and he killed many level 3 enemies in succession. He was one of the most important ministers under the Mermaid Emperor. This time, he would personally attend the Heavenly Immortal Tower Assembly and host the assembly as an elder, adding to the highlight of the assembly. When Suyu arrived, the Heavenly Immortal Tower was already overcrowded with elites from all over the world. However, the elites were also divided into different levels. Elites of different levels gathered on different floors. The first floor was for elites who had not yet reached the level of deities. The second floor was for level 4 and level 5 deities. As for the third floor, it was for the most outstanding generation of level 3 deities. Under the envious gazes of the elites on the first floor, Suyu and the others walked directly to the second floor. "Stop! The second floor is not a place that anyone can go." At the entrance of the second floor staircase stood a young man with a proud look on his face. He was from a younger generation of the heaven-defying empire, Nitian Aoyun, a level 4 deity. He was considered extremely outstanding among the younger generation. Tai Ching Miaoyu frowned. Nitian Aoyan, are you trying to pick a fight? We just chased the half-moon godly thief to the second floor. Why are you stopping us? Nitian Aoyan seemed to have just recognized them. He sneered and said, I was wondering who it was. It turns out to be the useless little princess of the Tai Ching Empire. Please come in. Humph. Tai Ching Miaoyu snorted and entered in a flash. Nitian Lingshan and the young man of the Ice and Fire Imperial family also looked displeased. However, when Suyu was about to enter, Nitian Aoyan reached out and stopped him. He looked Suyu up and down. Who allowed you to enter? Tai Ching Miaoyu looked back and said, How dare you? Since he was invited by us, he naturally has the right to enter the second floor. Are you going to doubt our foresight and character? Haha, it's not that I don't trust you, but there are too many people trying to fish in troubled waters. It's never wrong to be cautious. Nitian Aoyan laughed. You are doing this on purpose. Tai Ching Miaoyu's eyes narrowed. Nitian Aoyan smiled coldly and bared his teeth. What do you think? The momentum of the two gradually rose, colliding with each other and creating a fierce aura, attracting a lot of attention. Right at that moment, a gentle and heavy voice broke the atmosphere between the two sides. You are behaving atrociously in my territory. Aren't you looking down on me? The young elites, who were originally discussing in groups of 3 or 5 and were indifferent to the outside world, immediately became spirited. It's the owner of the Heaven Immortal Tower, the Dragon Elephant King, some of the elites said in surprise. They immediately smiled and came forward to greet him. TSK, the rumors are true. The Dragon Elephant King is hosting it personally. I'm lucky to meet this War King. This trip was not in vain. A group of people gathered around. Only then did they notice the dispute between Tai Ching Miaoyu and Nitian Aoyan. Enemies don't meet each other. The contradiction planted by Nitian Hanxing in the past continues to this day. Poor kid. If he came alone, there might not be any trouble. But with Tai Ching Miaoyu and the others, he is asking for trouble. That Nitian Aoyan is not a good person. In the chattering discussion, on the first floor, surrounded by many deities, a broad-shouldered, bronze-colored elephant-headed man slowly walked up. His powerful footsteps made the stairs creak, and everyone's heart beat faster. All of them felt great pressure. In particular, his eyes were full of coldness and ruthlessness, as if he had returned from a bloody and cold battlefield, making one's heart tremble. Even the deities of the same level felt a little uneasy in front of him. Many of the level 4 deities on the second floor also had awe and respect in their eyes. Under the gaze of the crowd, the Dragon Elephant King came to the stairs. Even the arrogant Nitian Aoyan bowed respectfully. Greetings, Dragon Elephant King. Tai Ching Miaoyu and the others also saluted. Greetings, Dragon Elephant King. The Dragon Elephant King nodded indifferently and looked around at them. What happened? Tai Ching Miaoyu was angry and told the cause in effect one by one. Nitian Aoyan was also reasonable and said, His breath is hidden, and who knows if he is qualified to enter the second floor. I am strict, and it is also for the success of the convention. After listening, the Dragon Elephant King's cold eyes contained a deep penetrating power as he stared at Suyu. The Dragon Elephant King was slightly surprised that he did not see through the other's breath. Release the divine light. The Dragon Elephant King took it for granted that the brilliance of the gods on the surface of Suyu's body was just a little special. Suyu was expressionless and shook his head lightly. It's better not to avoid unnecessary trouble. Hearing this, Nitian Aoyan sneered. Who do you think you are? In front of the Dragon Elephant King, will you cause trouble? You think too highly of yourself. The Dragon Elephant King looked displeased. I don't like to repeat my words a second time. Let go, otherwise, I have the right to ask you to leave, no matter who you are. Suyu turned his head and stared at the Dragon Elephant King, saying, Really? This is the Taichu dynasty, my territory, and my words are the imperial edict. Unless you are Lord Mermaid Emperor. The Dragon Elephant King's aura suddenly became fierce, and he took a step forward. Everyone felt the pressure increase sharply, and either the divine power surged out, or they chose to retreat for fear of being affected. Nitian Aoyun sneered. Reckless thing, contradicting the Dragon Elephant King? Ha! Suyu slowly walked down the stairs, looked at the Dragon Elephant King face to face, and said, Although I am not the Mermaid Emperor, I can be an exception. In an instant, the divine light on his body dissipated, and his true appearance was revealed in an instant. Because of the angle, only the Dragon Elephant King could see it. The Dragon Elephant King's cold face was startled at first, as if he was recalling something, and the sudden changes turned into a touch of stiffness and fear. Large beads of sweat quickly accumulated on his forehead, and his eyes trembled in panic. His huge body trembled uncontrollably, and even his sharp eyes were no longer there, replaced by endless fear. Greetings, Su. The Dragon Elephant King's throat was dry, and he was like an ant standing in front of a divine dragon, humble and insignificant and shocked speechless. Suyu waved his hand and interrupted him in time. You know who I am. Please keep my identity a secret, Dragon Elephant King. The Dragon Elephant King was dumbfounded and nodded repeatedly. Okay, keep it a secret. At the same time, thousands of thunders sounded in his heart. Didn't they say they would hold a party for a group of juniors? How come an ancient, ruthless man at the level of an ancestor came? That was a character even more ruthless than the Mermaid Emperor. Was Nitian Guyan strong? He still died at his hands. Such a person, killing him was as easy as killing an ant. Then, can I go to the second floor? Suyu asked. The Dragon Elephant King smiled bitterly. Even if you wanted the Heavenly Immortal Tower, he would not dare to say a word, let alone go upstairs. Yes, no problem, the Dragon Elephant King said quickly. Nitian Aoyun, who was on the side, was a little dumbfounded. He did not accept the sudden reversal and said, Dragon Elephant King, are you just going to let an unknown person go upstairs? Dragon Elephant King was furious in his heart. UF Astra's King touch my pot. If he was an unknown person, wouldn't you be a piece of grass? Chapter 1543. But Nitian Aoyun felt ashamed and wanted to dissuade him. But when he saw the Dragon Elephant King's fierce eyes, he immediately swallowed his words. The Dragon Elephant King cupped his hands at Suyu. Mr. Su, please. Suyu did not want to be too ostentatious, and said, The Dragon Elephant King is the host, so you go first. Okay. The Dragon Elephant King, who had always been indifferent, was a little too polite. As he entered, he said, Mr. Su, you don't know much about the Heavenly Fairy Tower, do you? Why don't I accompany you? No, the Heavenly Fairy Tower is a distinguished guest. Dragon Elephant King, go ahead and do your own thing. There is no need to entertain me, Suyu said lightly. The Dragon Elephant King's heart was bitter. All the distinguished guests present today were not as valuable as a strand of his hair. However, the Dragon Elephant King still had the ability to read people's expressions. Knowing that Suyu didn't want to reveal his identity, he didn't dare to continue chatting with him, lest he annoyed this big shot who was like a killing god. So, he said, Mr. Su, enjoy yourself to your heart content. I won't disturb you any further. Everyone watched the back of the Dragon Elephant King, and then looked at Suyu, who walked past Nitian Aoyun and ascended to the second floor. They were surprised. Who is he? Why is the Dragon Elephant King so polite? Is he the heir that the Mermaid Emperor is secretly training? If so, why have I never heard of him? Haha, no matter what, Nitian Aoyun has lost face. With his character, it is difficult for him to let this go. Besides exchanging legacies, it seems good to see an extra wonderful show. Sure enough, Taiching Miaoyu's laughter came. Ha! What a pity that this is not the territory of the heaven-defying empire. The implication was that Nitian Aoyun could not show off his power. Nitian Aoyun's gloomy face flashed with a hint of ferocity. Let's wait and see. He looked at Suyu with fear and deep hatred. Don't be happy too soon. Suyu did not care, ignored him, and walked to the second floor. Hey, you are a hidden man. Taiching Miaoyu felt relieved and looked at Suyu curiously. The Dragon Elephant King is polite to you. You are not a nobody around the Mermaid Emperor, are you? At this moment, she recalled that she hadn't asked for his name. It was not that he had forgotten, but as a member of the royal family of the four great empires, he had a sense of superiority in his bones. He looked down on Su Yu and was too lazy to ask him about it. Su Yu just chuckled and did not reply. Tai Ching Miaoyu frowned and said, "Why are you so difficult to get along with?" However, Nitian Longshan looked at Su Yu again, cupped his fists, and said, "I have yet to ask for your name, brother." Su Yu paused for a moment before replying, "Yes, Mr. Su." The young man of the Ice and Fire Imperial family murmured, "Putting the word Gongzi in front of one's surname is a custom of the nobles in ancient times." Is Gongzi Su from a noble family? Tai Ching Miaoyu, who had been criticizing him, snorted and said, "In today's world, other than the Emperor's sacred sect, who dares to boast about being from a noble sect? All the outstanding heroes in the world are second to none in our sacred faction. Brother Jing Huan, don't overestimate him. He is nothing special. He was just courteous to the Dragon Elephant King in the God Realm. How can he compare to the real heaven rulers?" "Ha!" Jing Huan chuckled. "Then the senior Su Yu that you admire the most, is he also from the sacred faction of the four great empires?" Tai Ching Miaoyu blushed. "What nonsense are you talking about? I don't admire him. I'm just curious." "Ha! Who was the one who grew up listening to his stories, and who once said that she wanted to marry him when she grew up?" Jing Huan burst into laughter. Nitian Longshan, who was cold and silent, could not help but smile. The three of them had been good friends since they were young. When they were young, they had grown up listening to Su Yu's stories. All kinds of rumors about him, all kinds of incredible deeds, to them, who were deep in the lonely imperial palace, were as fascinating as an unknown legend. Especially 5 years ago, when he killed the number one king of the God Realm, Nitian Gyun, pushing him to the peak of a legend. As for Tai Ching Miaoyu, she admired him even more. There had been many outstanding men who came to propose marriage, but they were all rejected by Tai Ching Miaoyu mercilessly. She also set a standard. If they could do any of the things that Su Yu had done successfully, she would consider marrying him. Although there were many outstanding men in the world, there was no shortage of people with unfathomable strength. However, many of Su Yu's deeds were legendary. Even their elders were amazed and did not dare to try, let alone the younger generation. Tai Ching Miaoyu was ashamed and angry. She pulled out her sword and slashed at him. "Be asterisk starred. That's because I'm young and inexperienced. How dare you take it out?" She admired Su Yu not only because he had killed Nitian Gyun and defeated Nitian Hanxing, but also because of the dream of being a hero in the girl's heart. At that time, Su Yu had risen like a comet, illuminating the continent of the God Realm. He was the person she longed for the most as a young girl. Now, with the passage of time, as she matured, she naturally knew that the gap between her and Su Yu was like a light year. In the eyes of a legendary figure like Su Yu, who was at the level of an ancient ancestor, she was just an inconspicuous speck among the masses. It was impossible for them to cross paths for the rest of their lives. The Ice and Fire Phantom still did not let it go, and teased, "Oh? Then who secretly bought Su Yu's legendary booklet in the market last night? You saw it?" Tai Ching Miaoyu was flustered, and her face was overflowing with shame. She was so angry that she stamped her feet. You, I will really kill you." The two of them chased each other on the second floor, and it was very lively. Su Yu was surprised to hear that. He did not expect that he had such an image in the minds of the new generation. After chasing for a while, Tai Ching Miaoyu felt bored. She put away her long sword and sighed. "Forget it. You can say whatever you want. He won't know anyway." As she spoke, she glared at Su Yu and said, "Anyway, don't be complacent. We're only qualified to come to the second floor. Compared to those geniuses on the third floor, we are nothing." "Understood," Su Yu said. Tai Ching Miaoyu's eyebrows relaxed, and she said, "Seeing that you helped me vent my anger, when the geniuses on the third floor rest, I will ask for Tai Ching Yunhui's opinion. If you can take out something that can move her, it's not that she can't relent and pass on to you the inherited divine skill of our Tai Ching dynasty." Thank you very much. Suyu smiled. This young girl was a little arrogant, but overall, she was reasonable and not bad. As for her girlish feelings for Suyu could only politely decline and pretend not to know. The geniuses on the second floor quickly began to exchange the exquisite divine techniques that they had obtained. The news of the arrival of the catastrophe had been confirmed repeatedly, and no one doubted it. Therefore, most people did not hide much. They displayed their strongest divine techniques in exchange for powerful divine techniques of the same level, hoping that they could benefit before the catastrophe and increase their chances of survival. However, the exchange was also divided into circles according to the factions and influences. The circle with the highest level belonged to the current 4 great empires. They lived together in groups and tacitly rejected the other geniuses, attracting envious gazes. Because what they were about to exchange were the inherited divine techniques from the empires.